Good to see you, everyone. My name is Robbie Howell, and as I often am, I am joined by three fine players here, including a very special guest. But that isn't to say that all of you aren't my special guests. It's fantastic to play with you all. And if you wouldn't mind introducing yourselves in the same order you just did, that would be grand.
Hello, I am Reece, also known as Reiteration 6.
Hey, I'm Lee. You might have seen me before on this channel.
I'm Jim. You guys have never seen me before. This is my first experience with Enclave. Kind of excited to be here.
And we are delighted to have you, Jim. I always forget to say this, but in case you are watching on YouTube, make sure you join the Enclave Discord server linked down below. It's really fun. We do all sorts of cool stuff here. And also, we're joined today by Jim of the channel The Old Warlock. If you haven't seen his stuff before, it is my personal favorite TTRPG channel on YouTube. And so, highly recommend his content.
I appreciate that.
My absolute pleasure. Here, I think you're right. Jim is a little bit quiet, so I'll crank his volume a bit. There we go. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to introduce characters. You guys all have characters ready to go. I think two of these are brand new. Unless, Reece, did you play him recently?
One. Yeah, I've played one mission with this character. He's still level 1, though, so.
No problem at all. Excellent. Well, new to me, no doubt. So if you wouldn't mind introducing your characters, just going over class, what items you picked, any stat distribution would be grand, and a brief summary of their appearance and backstory, that would be fantastic. Fire away, Reece.
Okay, my character's name is Hasad. He's a wanderer, and he has 1+ to vitality, might, will, and skill, and 2 pluses in luck. He's designed to be a combat wanderer, which is not something the class normally does. His walking stick is reskinned as a quarterstaff, so better, to hit people with. However, that's not all, because instead of getting an elective piece of gear, I gave him a couple of common items, one of which is a blade, and the other of which is an item that attaches a blade to a pole. As a result, he carries a ludicrously oversized anime-style scythe, which has the magical property of being a bit lighter than it looks like it should be, plus, of course, the normal property of the walking stick, which is that it makes the wielder look like less of a threat. So
somehow.
Effectively, anyone who sees him is just like, yep, this is totally normal, completely ordinary for this guy to be carrying an enormous bladed weapon around wherever he goes. And his appearance is, he's a young man who is about average height, fair skin, brown hair. He has blue and white robes, sandals, a bunch of belts, satchel, and that's about it. He is an ascetic and a mystic, and he is a traveler. He wanders around meeting people and generally sort of avoids combat, even though he's actually good at it, trained for, self-defense, but generally will just help people out. He goes to areas where they are generally quite low tech and uses his scythe for its intended purpose, which is assisting with agriculture. However, he joined Enclave in order to go and see places that are a bit more further afield from where he lives.
Lovely. And Lee,
More
fire
interesting.
away.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm playing Vadim, who is a Thane. He is from sort of late industrial, sort of pseudo post-Tsarist revolution, Russia-esque kind of place. This sort of short, sort of dark-ish, almost Asian features, like a thick brow, and his character was just, he was a factory worker who got swept up in a people's revolt and ended up in a position of leadership, and then discovered the people that he was following were just as corrupt, if not more, and said, you know what, I don't want to let this sort of thing happen. I want to be sort of a bit of an arbiter for actual justice for the people wherever he goes. So he said, you know what? I'm gonna go. I'm gonna strengthen myself up at the Enclave. Then I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna make my place right. Make my home a place you'd like to farm. You'd like to see Reese's character. I also elected to take some common items. That being a revolver. This revolver, however, does not come with extra ammo. It has 6 shots, just 6, no spares, and a bugle. Other than that, his armor is sort of this patchwork of heavy layers of armor that has either been welded or sort of like cinched on to his like heavy, winter gear. That is based around sort of a light cavalryman's cuirass. His sword is like a Kriegsmesser, so it's somewhat single-edged, long blade. And he carries with him a flag, which depicts a green mammoth that is rampant on a field of bronze.
What are
Did
his
you say
stats?
green mammoth?
Nice.
Stat-wise,
mammoth, that was it.
yeah, mammoth. Stat-wise, similar to Hasad. 2 resilience, and then a single into spirit, sensory, will, and vigor.
The rounded
Nice.
boys.
The rounded boys.
Excellent. And Jim, what do you have for us?
I'm going to be running a character named Sloan. He is a gunslinger. Stats are skill. He's got 3 pluses. And then he has 1 in will, 1 in sensory, and 1 in reflex.
Excellent.
Sorry?
Oh, just commenting excellent. Carry on. The
okay.
will distribution is really interesting. Every character in the group has a single plus to will.
Nice. I chose to go with a Duster, Bandolier, Revolver, and Sharps Rifle.
Mm-hmm.
The Duster, however, looks like a Navy peacoat, if you're familiar with those.
Oh, yeah.
Heavy wool jacket, kind of goes down to mid-thigh level. Black in this case. As far as background is concerned, all that anyone knows is that Sloan at one time worked in a circus when he was very, very young. Something ugly happened there. Next thing anybody knows about Sloan is that he had become a bounty hunter. He worked as a bounty hunter for a long period of time, got burned out on doing that, then was approached by the Enclave to come and join them. Sloan has a real, how do I want to say it? He has no problem killing people that he thinks deserve to be killed, but he also goes to extremes to protect people that he thinks need to be protected. That's part of his backstory. Maybe some of that will come out as the game goes by, but we'll just have to see. But he also has a dislike of people who kill animals for no apparent reason. He's very protective of animals, especially 4-legged mammals. That's as far as I've gone with the character. I've got more, but some of it might eke out as we move along today.
Beautiful. Couldn't ask for a better start. I'm seeing through lines between these 3. That's going to be giving me a lot of good intel for my design. Speaking of my design, we're now going to generate the mission. Each of you is going to give me a focus word. Jim, for your benefit, focus words are any word or short phrase you guys are going to give to me now that I'm going to use to generate your session spontaneously. After you guys give me these focus words, I'll have Reece and you guys can give them to me in the same order that you've been introducing. While I'm generating, I'm going to have you guys do pre-mission. This is a little bit of time. I'm going to pop out of the room and pace around and think. And in the meantime, you guys can discuss your characters in a little more depth with each other, go over potential interactions your characters might have, potential strategies. This is your chance to talk out of character, get each other on the same page, and start to think about how your group might interact, just so people are on the same page should such interactions end up happening. This is especially important if characters won't get along, because playing characters who don't get along is super fun, but often needs like a little bit more forethought. But even for characters who are reasonably coherent, this is still usually a pretty useful step to take. Focus words. Reece, what do you got for me?
Mine are Junkyard Fairy Facsimile.
Wow. Junkyard.
I used random word generators to come up with these.
Sounds
so
great.
yeah.
Okay. Junkyard Fairy Facsimile. And Lee, what is your focus
Yes.
word?
The focus word I'm going to give you is Cruciform Carnation.
Cruciform. You were talking to me about that one the other day.
I was in the shower and I was like, oh, what am I going to use for this? And then those 2 words ended up in my brain. I was like, that sounds kind of neat, I guess, maybe.
All right, Jim, any word or short phrase, doesn't matter how coherent.
Let's go with Steel Emerald.
Steel Emerald. Lovely. Every single one of these focus words sounds like a JoJo's stand, and I'm going to try my best not to make that the mission. All right, I'm going to be out. I'm going to do my generation, and I'm going to be right back. Handle your pre-mission, fellas, and thank you for bearing with me.
All right.
I'm following you guys' lead, so
for sure. Reece, you want to start off, or should I do my sort of teamwork brief?
You can go ahead, yeah.
Perfect. So I'm playing a Thane. The Thane is the closest thing we have to a tank in the game. I'm able to arm both us and any sort of allied NPCs that we encounter with mundane weapons. With a little tongue in cheek and finagling, I might be able to get some firearms. Fingers crossed.
Nice.
I can create a shield wall, sort of this relatively stationary line of shields. Though again, all the abilities in Enclave can be morphed a little bit into what I need. And then I have an ability to draw aggro and draw aggression towards myself by making a big scene. So so very much I'm gonna try and put myself in front of the fray, give both of you who seem to be a bit more nimble space to maneuver. So that's character wise. Again, his traits are tough, compassionate, and alert. Yeah, he wants to do good, but he's also gone through a hell of a lot of stuff that he was not intending to. Yeah, he's a factory worker. He made railway spikes. He did not intend to end up in this situation. So he's got some baggage, but hopefully it won't be too menacing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think I'll be able
to
give openings to Sloan to be able to fire off some good shots.
Yeah. In terms of the personality, since I haven't mentioned mine yet, I'll say that I have the carefree, indulgent, and self-controlled traits, which associate with the luck, vitality, and will skills, or stats, I should say. But specifically within the book, it gives examples of how you can interpret these traits, and the ones from those list of examples that I've kind of chosen to focus on for this character are whimsical, which is a variation of carefree, optimistic, a variation of indulgent, and calm and principled, which both are from self-controlled. So he's fairly light-hearted and thinks the best of people. And doesn't tend to lose his temper. I mean, I don't know why I got mixed up there. But yeah. In terms of abilities, I can see visions of the future sometimes, and enchant random objects I find, and sometimes have connections to people that could potentially be helpful or unhelpful, depending on the situation. But the bulk of what this character is about is his weapon, which I also wish to just point out before I forget to mention it. The effect of the walking stick does not state anywhere that it affects only enemies. So everyone, presumably including other agents, also see me as less of a threat.
Good.
So yeah.
As far as Sloan is concerned, I'm seeing some through lines here as well. Sloan is very much about justice, but it's also a dark justice. He has his own sense of justice. He's looking at when he sees things that he doesn't like, something that doesn't go with his moral code. He has no issue with eliminating that particular thing that offends his moral code. But at the same time, he is very tender-hearted toward people who have been hard done by, people who have been abused, that kind of thing. So, like I said, I'm seeing some through lines here. A lot of this stems from his childhood, where because of his innate skills, he worked in a circus, or he was forced to work in a circus with his brother as a marksman. And so by the age of 6, he was doing marksmanship tricks. But things went bad on that, and he doesn't talk about it very much. But it all leads to his current state where he will kill if he has to, but he doesn't like to do it unless there's absolutely no other choice. So I also like personally, I like to play the character that does sit farther behind. I'm usually playing snipers and things like that in other games. So I think that having a tank out front is going to work really well for anything that I end up setting myself up to do. But I mean, aside from that, I don't have that much else to share unless you guys have some questions about me or what my particular character has driving him as his psychological motivators.
Well,
I mean, it's going to
I
come out
always
as you
find that
go.
it's fun I always find it's fun to discover a lot of that in play when it becomes relevant.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's really good to not know a lot about what your ally's background.
That's the way I like to play it as well. It just makes it more, to me, it's a bit more immersive. So I think that it's fun
Yeah.
to not. I mean, I love to hear a little bit, but I think it's also cool to be surprised.
For sure. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Nearly have
But
it ready.
but if you have any questions, let me know.
What's his outfit? Is his outfit very like classic Western, or is it a bit more like a little bit more custom?
He has the navy pea coat.
The Navy
right.
pea coat. And I'm sorry, give me your names again, guys. Your character names.
Yeah, Lee.
And your character, Lee.
Character. Character is Vadim. Vadim.
Yeah.
And Reece,
my
what's yours?
character's name. Yeah, mine is Hasad. Hasad.
In terms of appearance, it is a black navy pea coat. If you look at Sloan, you might think that at one point he had a fair bit of money behind him. He has fairly expensive looking duds, but they also show more than a little bit of wear. So maybe he had a fairly strong income at one point, but that's maybe fallen off a bit.
Nice.
Aside from that, nothing special.
Yeah, my guy, despite not actually looking at all like this, has the vibe, the general sort of presence of like a generic farmhand. Like he just seems like a farm worker. This is partially because of the magic of the walking stick making him less threatening, obviously. But also he actually has experience working on farms, so he kind of has the mannerisms, I suppose. But yeah.
Nice.
He's got these like fancy robes, but they're probably like a bit, scuffed, kind of, not ragged, but like not like just recently been dry cleaned, not spotless.
All right, my friends, I have something for you. This is going to be your mission statement. As always, you can ask any questions you'd like after the statement is over. And all of the information I'm about to provide to you is known in character, as well as the questions and answers. Though your questions don't have to be in character. They can be something that, even if your character wouldn't think about it, you could still ask it. After this, we're going to go to Assembly, where all your characters meet together at Enclave HQ with all of this knowledge in mind. Give them a chance to briefly acquaint with each other, then you're going to be teleported out directly onto the mission. You good to go? Awesome. You are being sent to a trailer park. It is called Cromney, or Cromney Park, or just Crom to the locals. Cromney Park is in a bit of a hinterland. It is not quite a modern society, but it is, you could approximate it as maybe a 1950s society that hadn't really invented diesel. Or any sort of oil-based power. Everything is still coal-powered out here, and yet technology has pressed on nonetheless. Cromney Park, however, doesn't see too much of that. The people here mostly make a living by collecting detritus from the nearby major industrial plants and trying to get the most usable parts and resell them, or remix it. A number of the people here have a good amount of ingenuity with that, and most famous among them are two men. Both of whom will be very relevant. One is a fellow named Pabbage. He is the unofficial leader of Cromney Park. Pabbage is old, incredibly grumpy, and has tended to. He doesn't rule, but he definitely sets the tone for the location. He is very hostile to outsiders in general, but in this case, he is going to be your chief ally. Reason being is the other individual by name of Gus. Gus is a good deal younger and was quite beloved in Cromley Park. People always said he was going places, and he's a very intelligent guy, a bit of an inventor. That is up until recently. Gus's favorite invention, one that he's popularized for a while, called the Belly, which is, you could think of it as almost like a coal-powered mecha suit. Not very big, not very sophisticated. He still does most of the work, but it's pretty impressive nonetheless. This area is plagued with various cryptids and other strange beasts, and he's kind of single-handedly fought them off, and in some ways given Cromley Park a new lease on life. But recently something has turned badly with Gus. He has become not only more and more obsessed with his invention, but has become a bit of a tyrant, even directly opposing Pabbage's authority, and even going to the point where he has threatened to harm people. Recently, however, this went a step further. Gus not only took Pabbage prisoner, but started to set major rules in Cromley Park, imposing a curfew, preventing people from leaving. And a few members of the community, people have noticed, those who were tended to be a little bit more close to him, have been acting extremely strange. They almost look like he's given them little versions of the Belly themselves. It's to the point where Gus is a serious threat and has actively, at this point, as of yesterday, killed someone in cold blood for opposing him. He has to go down. And as such, your job here is simple. Deal with Gus. Whether the way in which you do that is up to you. The entirety of Cromley Park has about 40 people living in it. Now, 39, I should say, after yesterday. However, a few people have started to realize that there's been a bit of slang that has started to pop up recently, especially among those who are closest to Gus, where they start to refer to him as having chewed people. Now, this has always been used in reference to the people who now have their own little, coal-powered mecha suits, who are behaving strangely and who are unquestioningly loyal to him at this point. No one really knows how this slang developed. As with much slang, it's kind of he said, she said, I heard it from him, I heard it from her. But given that he's only been behaving this way for about a month now and only been really imposing an iron fist in the last 2 weeks, there might be something to find there. Apart from that, the only other thing of note is that typically Gus does run on, his Belly, his invention, does run on coal power. The only other thing that has been noted is that Gus has not been tapping into his coal reserves, though he has not taken off the Belly in over a month. Questions?
Do we have any idea of how many people are allied closely to Gus?
Yeah, he has 4 people who have versions of the Belly, and he has another 3 to 5 who are somewhere between hangers-on and too scared to do anything to oppose him. Those are the ones who are in his immediate circle, and the remaining 30-odd people are keeping well away from him, not talking to him whenever they can possibly get away with it, and just only obeying him when they absolutely have to. Other questions?
Time of day upon arrival.
You guys are going to be porting in the early evening. It is going to be a relatively overcast day outside, and it's going to be more than a little nippy. You can picture the environment here being Minnesota-esque. Actually, Reece, that wouldn't help you very much.
No.
Actually, not terribly dissimilar from Scotland. Like, bad wind. The wind is what makes it most cold, though in this case, a lot more forested and reasonably mountainous.
Cool.
Other questions?
Is there a contact that we're coming in with, or is it just, somebody we're supposed to meet, or are we just showing up cold and having to figure most things out for ourselves?
Excellent question. You guys are actually being hired by Pabbage, though he is imprisoned by Gus. He has managed to get the word out to his daughters they will be your point of contact. You will be porting into their trailer. Pabbage has 7 daughters, rather prolific, who are largely the ones who are now kind of carrying out his will in his stead. These are adult daughters, for the record.
So it's about the size of like a decent sized trailer park.
Yeah, it's decent size, but again, the population is now down to 40. Part of the reason for that is it used to be almost double this, but a lot of people flew the coop once Gus started acting weird, got too spooked. But they've left their vehicles behind, which are being systematically scrapped by Gus and his cronies.
Okay.
Again, since this is coal powered, you can picture the vehicles here as being almost like trains without rails. Pardon. Carry on, Jim.
No, you're good. I'm just wondering, is there any kind of local government authority outside of the 2 people that you've mentioned? I mean, is there someone that they answer to in terms of a regional administrator, regional governor, somebody who oversees the area that Crom lies within?
Hypothetically, Crom is quite a ways away from the nearest municipal centers, and Pabbage has actually worked very hard over the years to make it almost completely independent. The nearest town has less than 1,000 people in it, and their resources are stretched very thin. There's a chance they know what's going on from the people who fled, but honestly, they leave Cromney Park well enough alone, and up until very recently, people have preferred it that way.
So there's no overarching authority that we might end up having to answer to based on our actions?
No.
Okay.
What's the name of that other town?
Do you want me to spell it out for you?
Yeah. That is actually that will be relevant for once.
It is AULDININER. Aldininer.
Alden. Okay.
Any other questions? Are we good to go?
Do we have a rough assessment of what the belly has been observed to do, other than being like a spooky looking mech suit? Does it possess firearms? Does it possess
yes.
a flamethrower?
Excellent question.
Does it have are we looking at Killdozer here?
You're looking at kind of a Killdozer here. It has actually all the things you just listed and more. It has a powerful firearm on it, though very inaccurate. It has a short to medium range flamethrower on it. It has a crusher that has been observed to be able to get through literally any metal it is taken to. And it also has a fully operational, oversized chainsaw blade for getting through wood.
For the Emperor.
That was my thought, yeah, exactly.
And how does it move? Is it legs? Is it treads?
Again, a little bit of both. It has powered legs, but when he is tired, he brings out the treads. It even has a built-in easy chair because he carries it around for the most part, and he has to sit down sometimes.
And again,
So how big? Like what kind of height is this thing?
It gives him another 2 feet of height. So not colossal, but pretty frickin' big.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jim, what were you saying?
No, you're good. So, and we're looking at there being roughly 4 of these suits in Gus's.
Excellent point. The other ones are smaller. They don't have nearly as many augments, but they are armed, though admittedly with, again, much more toned down weapons and only 1 or 2 apiece.
Okay. But again, there's 4 of those.
Yep.
4 of the toned down versions and 1 of the big ones. Okay.
Exactly right.
Since you mentioned him getting tired, I take it this is not like an Iron Man suit where it's got, it empowers him, it makes him stronger.
It helps him out a little bit. But it
Okay.
doesn't help him out so much that it's not exhausting to use, though people have noticed that he's a lot more vigorous in it than he used to. It used to be like a running joke that he could maybe work this thing for like half an hour and then just collapse in a pile and need to rest. But he has not been observed to take it off in over a month.
Sorry to dig into the suit, but since the people who've observed this suit exist for a while, I'm trying. Were there any conditions that he couldn't work in?
Heat, pretty much. He would get too hot. But given that it's cold this time of year, it's kind of optimal for him. I guess I'll throw out one more thing. The people have observed him use this thing. This thing's famous in the area. He's used this thing for years, but he's built it up over time, and recently he has definitely made new augments that the locals are not yet familiar with and have no idea of the capacities of. So he will have some wild cards up his sleeve.
Totally fine.
One last thing from me. You say that primarily things were coal-driven. His seems to have become uncoal-driven. What about the others that are run by his cronies? Are those still on the coal standard, or have they kind of moved with the same technology in terms of empowerment?
They have not been observed to use coal, but then again, they might be refueling in secret. His coal reserves are very substantial, given that he's stolen almost everyone's. And while it's not easy to check them, they do look like they have been going down slowly over time, but not nearly at the pace that his suit would normally necessitate.
All right, so there's something in that suit.
Let's move to Assembly.
And it ain't just him.
Assembly takes us to Enclave HQ. It is a labyrinthine building of almost indeterminate size, beautifully decorated, but only ever in shades of gray. All of you would be brought to the same beautifully decorated, impeccably gray room, each by an Enclave attendant. We will say, semi-arbitrarily, that Vadim and Hasad are the first to show, with Sloan joining shortly thereafter. Let's begin with just Vadim and Hasad.
So Vadim, by the way, does stand at 5'6". He's a shorter fellow.
Yeah.
So he will approach Hasad very much just in big. He is not yet in his armor. He's just in a big coat and sort of like an Ushanka hat. So floppy hat. A pleasant day to you, my friend. I am called Vadim. And hold out a hand.
Likewise. Hold out a hand to shake. My name is Hasad.
Hasad. A strange name. I have not heard it before. Are you
Well,
points to stick? You are a farmer, no?
a traveling farmer. I walk around and offer my services where they're needed.
It's a shame that you
Generally,
have not
it's-
visited my lands. We could always use more men for the harvest.
Indeed, perhaps one day I shall. My reason for joining this organization is, after all, to expand my horizons.
We can say this is the point when Sloan is brought in as well. He sees the other two men already discussing.
Gentlemen, pleased to make your acquaintance.
And
What I
yourself,
heard,
good
we're
sir.
gonna be working on
Likewise.
good to meet you. From what it sounds like, we're going to be going on some mission to deal with some nutcase in a metal suit.
It
Indeed.
does seem that way.
Well, I look forward to working with you. Just so you know, I carry a pistol and I'm reasonably good with it. Not one of those ones who likes to get out and mix things up, but at the same time, if I need to, I'll step in. So know that I got your back, but I'll probably be behind you. So it's going to be the best place for me to do that.
Appreciated.
It is always good to have covering fire. I well versed in firearms, though I sort of taps sword. Prefer the blade. No, I've worked in factories before, and I even took a 2-month spell on the steam engine myself, so I might be able to figure something out. But I am no man of the mind. I'm the man of the people. That is my purpose. Hopefully, we'll be able to rally some of the members of this Crom to assist us in some ways. Perhaps their vehicles that have not yet been destroyed might pose useful. But I do
That
think
sounds
that at
fun.
least initially we should be careful. We do not know whose eyes are where, and we do not wish to provoke a confrontation that we do not need to rush it.
Agreed.
Indeed.
I myself will stand out. I will be wearing armor. It is loud, so I do not think the stealth should be left to me.
I tend to think that people rarely object to my presence. I'm not sure I would go so far as to call myself stealthy, more innocuous. But perhaps that
I mean,
could
you
be
seem
helpful.
like a nice guy.
Thank you.
If there's any sneaking that needs to be done, I can give it a go. I'm not saying that I'll be real successful at it, but I'll see what I can do for it. But I
It is
agree.
late evening, so
Yeah.
it will be dark.
You want me to get when we get there? If you want me to go out and have a look around, see what I can find out as far as the lay of the land is concerned, I'm happy to do it.
That might be good. Any points of vantage that you would be able to position yourself. Any positions that would, any terrain features that might be a good place to try to draw the enemy to. But we will be running on the seat of our pants. So I say we gather ourselves and prepare for a strange totalitarian ruler. I turn and walk into
An attendant is
to
waiting
get
for
my
you.
stuff ready.
And as they lead you through Enclave HQ with its labyrinthine passageways and gray attendants and gray decorations, dotted by the frequent colorful appearance of other Enclave agents, you are brought to the teleportation chamber, small and dim with rounded walls and corners, and 3 glowing panels on the floor. A disembodied voice says to you, "Agents, please take your places atop the telepads."
I will step onto one of them.
And as you do so, the feeling of dissociation hits, starting with your toes, making them tingle, icy hot, and then numb. Up through your body until it hits your eyes and your vision explodes into nothingness, until all of it rematerializes in an instant. You are hit suddenly by the smell of oil and burnt food and sweat. You're inside a relatively cramped place. It takes a moment to orient yourselves, but you eventually, by the oil lights that are burning all around, find that you have entered into maybe a dormitory of some kind, but a very roughshod one. It's halfway between a dormitory and a garage. There are pieces of scrap laying all about, the sound of tools hard at work, the smell of spam sizzling in a pan nearby, and a rough collection of hammocks and unwashed laundry. You see 3 women are busily going about, none of whom immediately see your presence, given that you're slightly out of the way of the main thoroughfare. And over in the garage area, there are another 2 women alongside another 2 men. Immediate actions upon teleporting in. Let us begin with Sloan.
I want to clear my throat.
One of the women going by, who has on a red bandana and a long braid down her back, turns around and then double takes this. "Holy shit, you scared the... Pardon. Hi. Good to meet you." And she extends a hand. "Trixie Pavage."
Name's Sloan.
Sloan, good to meet you.
These are my associates. This is Hasad, and this is Vadim.
Hi. And she says, "Hey, they're here. Have everyone hush up, all right?" As soon as she says hush up, a couple of other eyes look your way, including the other women and the 2 men in the room. One of the men gives a little zipper movement across his mouth, and a couple of the other women come up towards you. You can see the family resemblance eventually. Pavage's daughters, almost universally, have like kind of boxy square jaws and big hands, as well as rather prominent kind of inky black eyes. They all also have a similar expression, which is some variety of this. And as they come up and introduce themselves, you meet not only Trixie, but Nessa, Lana, and Scylla in short order. The first one who spoke, Trixie again, says, "Right. So, I don't know where to start with this shit. I hope they told you something about all what's going on, but we're holed up in here because we want to make sure, it's not, things ain't obvious out there. And Pa said that you was coming in, but he didn't say what you was coming in for, and I can only assume he has a good idea of it. So you keep hush on what you need to, and we'll help out how we need to, all right?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Right. She gives a little flick of her hand. She says, all right, back to work, as the women start to disperse. Actions you guys would like to take after Sloan clears his throat. Let's jump over to Hasad.
Nothing in particular at this time. I guess I'll just look around the trailer that we're inside to see if anything here strikes me as odd. Not that I'm overly familiar with trailer parks.
It's a pretty
but
odd place in the first place. This thing is less
Yeah.
of like an RV like we might know it, and more like a train car in terms of its size. It has 2 levels, and it seems a lot of it has been just kind of randomly gutted and converted into living space. The whole thing, you could think of it almost, what would Hasad be familiar with? He would probably be familiar with maybe the inside of a galleon or like a big ship, for example. It might look
Okay.
closer to that, but with a good deal of color, given that this is their permanent living space, and they have no shortage of interesting scraps of things here and there. You're also, I will say, Hassan would probably be interested by the sheer amount of food they have. All sorts of weird packaged snacks that he only can register as food because they smell funny. But yeah, it would be very foreign to him in particular. As he has taken but nothing like suspicious or weird beyond the suspicious weirdness of this foreign land. Vadim, actions from you before I jump back to Sloan.
So I will take off my helmet.
Yep.
As I am inside. And I will sort of it was Trixie who spoke to us?
Yeah.
Alright, I will sort of approach Trixie and just say, Arush, is this a safe place to speak?
She
It
says,
is quiet, no?
not the safest. You want to go out back?
It would be wise that we discuss as privately as one can acquire.
Yeah, sure. She gets to her feet and puts a piece of chewing tobacco into her mouth. She brings you out of their little garage through a back door and out into a absolutely litter-strewn forest verge. The pines are swaying in a high wind over the top, and there is a chicken coop with a couple of very dirty and unhappy-looking chickens. She parks herself behind the chicken coop, spits
Vadim
into
will
a
be
can,
sad.
and says,
Well,
what do you want to talk about?
I wanted to make clear our purpose, as we will be working together and sharing resources. Your father, who I understand is
Wait,
relatively insular.
Soft voices, maybe.
Oh, forgive me. I will whisper, but for the sake of the audio,
course.
I will not.
Ha!
Your father has called to us to assist in dealing with Gus.
Yeah.
From what I understand of his device, there is something odd and new that has entered into it in the last 2 months that has given him such force. I do not know what it is. We will try to initially ascertain that.
You're telling me. She spits again. There's a ping as it hits the can.
I will very visibly just be like, good loogie. No, I do not want to presume or assume anything, but if this device is as powerful as we have been told, it might require a great deal to take him down.
Yeah.
I was informed that that there are vehicles here of some sort, no?
Yeah.
And how are they operated? I have a mild understanding of mechanics.
She says, most of the big ones we decommission. You know, we live here, right? Don't even move. A couple still might move. But I can show you a hauler. You want to see a hauler? Might work.
I would love to see a hauler. Here, a moment. I sort of walk back pretty briskly so that I can tell my allies what I'm doing.
Sure. Before we go further, let's check in with Sloan as Vadim walks off with Trixie.
When Vadim walked off, I was going to go to the door that they exited the building from.
Sure.
I was going to keep an eye on them as they moved.
Yep.
But I didn't want to leave the doorway. I don't want to have a sudden group of people appear to prying eyes. So I wanted to set myself up right there in the doorway, but I wanted to be able to scan as much of the area surrounding the building as possible, at least, within the view of the door, just to see if this building is being watched, to see if I catch anybody keeping an eye on who comes and goes, that kind of thing. But at the same time, making sure that nobody has the chance to sneak up on Vadim.
Absolutely. Now, the place that you've placed yourself gives you actually quite a lot of visibility, because not only can you see Vadim and Trixie talking out back by the chicken coop, but you can also see out the front of the garage that they have built into their main rover. The garage right now is busy at work. 3 of the daughters and 2 others are all working in tandem, and they seem to be flattening out pieces of metal into like stackable plates. And as soon as they hit like a maybe 10 high, one of the men will pick it up and bring it out into a central place in like the courtyard of the park. Now, you actually can see a good bit of the park from here. There's some trees in the center of it, which makes it a little bit awkward, but you can picture it kind of like a big donut. You can't see the way out of it, and you can't see all of it, given that the trees partially cut off your vision, but you can see that towards the center, near where the tree line is, just barely around the corner from where you're currently standing, there are a number of these metal plates being stacked up with, unmistakably, one of Gus's henchmen. And the only reason you know it isn't Gus itself is because he doesn't have a lot of height.
Yeah.
The man is straight-backed and has a what looks like a distended belly, though after a moment you can see it's like a big furnace that seems to be mostly attached to his chest. It extends up to his shoulders and a little around his head. His face is currently protected by a heavy visor. His arms look a little bit open, and the backs of his legs look a little bit open too, but the right arm rather, has a large reticulated device on it that seems to like follow the joints of the body and ends in probably a weapon. It looks like an oversized 2-pronged fork, for want of a better term. He seems to be overseeing something that's going on as people are piling out metal plates from both the Pabbage household and at least 2, if not more, of the other households that you can see across the park. Other things you want to be looking out for, checking, doing, etc.
One of the things that I want to look at, since I carry this Sharps rifle, I want to be looking for, if push comes to shove, if there is some sort of a situation where I'm going to have to try and cover as much of this trailer park as I can with my long gun.
Yep.
Is there like a point of vantage on top of a building that I think that looks like it might have reasonably easy access that I could get to in a hurry if I needed to provide cover fire for my 2 companions, or if I needed to observe something that looked a little suspicious? Is there a place like that? Is it on top of this building? Is there another building in the more toward the center of the trailer park?
Due to the kind of, again, donut shape, roughly layout of the trailer park, if you got on top of any trailer, it would give you a pretty good view of at least 2/3 of the entire thing. The one that you are in right now seems to be like a good deal bigger than some of the other trailers that are in sight. Maybe it's because it's just about recency. Maybe it's because the Pabbages were in charge, but for whatever reason, this is a big one. So you'd have the best height here from everything that you can see right now.
Nice. Okay.
You do not see anything that would lend itself to being obviously Gus's residence yet, but again, your vision is kind of obstructed from your position inside of the garage. Let's jump over to Hasad. What would he like to do?
I think I would like to just hang around inside this trailer slash garage slash house place that we're at, and listen without looking like I'm prying to the conversation of the people that are here.
Sure.
Because you said they returned to their work and such, so
absolutely,
just whatever they're kind of talking about.
Now, for the most part, it is swearing at each other. There is an unmistakable tone of stress in the air. They hurry back and forth. Food burns. Whoever burned the food gets chewed out. Another says we need more hands in here. They also use a lot of slang, which Hasad is not yet familiar with. However, you do pick up one that you're familiar with, which is, "We got told this doesn't happen on time. Someone gets chewed. You know that."
Yeah. I will. When I hear that, I'll speak up to whoever it was that said that.
Yep, this
and
is a man
just-
hurrying past you carrying a plate of burnt spam.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just walk alongside him. And just say, "Excuse me, I'm new to the area. Could you explain that turn of phrase you used?
Says,
Chewed."
new to the area. Wow, couldn't have told, I never would have guessed with your accent. Amazing. Thought you were a local born
Indeed.
and bred. He says, all right, what do you want, Softy?
The term chewed in this context.
Yeah.
Could you explain what that implies?
Wish I could. All I know is the stuff that Gus's guys keep saying, keep threatening with. Probably bad. Probably real bad is my guess.
Fair enough. Thank you for your help.
You're
and
welcome,
I will
Your
allow him to
Majesty.
return to-
Jesus Christ. He hurries past. Yep.
Yes. Yeah. I guess I'll just stroll over to where Sloan was standing near
Yeah.
the door, and wait for something to happen.
Certainly. Well, it's at this point that Vadim is returning back into the garage after having conversed with Trixie. He meets Sloan at the door. Would he like to stop there? Hasad is not far past, or would he like to tuck inside?
I'll stand at the door because I won't
Yeah.
be. I'm not going to speak long.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say, there is a device which might still be operational. I'm going to investigate it. After that, I think it might be best if we find a way to free Pappage, or at least get clear word from him. We are outsiders. These people are untrusting. We want to rally them best. I think we will need at least his face or his voice.
Any responses from
I
Sloan?
think that's a great idea. That the people probably, from what we were told, they respect him. They look to him as the leader. It'd be a good gesture of good faith if we go down and get their leader out of the jail, and then he's probably going to have more information than anybody else in this trailer park as far as giving us some insight into this Gus fella. You got anything in mind? I guess the first thing we need to do is find out where that jail is.
Indeed, and I think, and pardon my assumptions, but you sound like these people. Perhaps you'll be able to fit in much better than the two of us.
I'm
Well,
willing to give
At
it a
least
go.
me.
I come from a group of people that this is what they did for a living. So yeah, I can go and try and at least be a little less obvious.
All right, good. Give me just a second. Somebody's calling my phone.
No problem.
I just need to go check on that.
Certainly. Sloan, do you have any follow-up actions after discussing with Vadim? And with Hasad at your side, you can also interact with him.
I'm gonna turn to Assad and say, "Did you find anything out from talking to these people?"
Unfortunately not. They don't seem to know a great deal, just repeat the slang they've overheard. But it does sound like beginning by attempting to free the client is a good starting point.
Sloan has trust issues, just so you know. So I'm gonna look at Assad and say, Assad, you get a feeling that something isn't quite right here with these. I'm talking about with these people inside of this building. You get any sense of that?
Well, I think they're probably very nice people. It's just that we've not really had an opportunity to get to know them yet.
All right. I'd like to turn to Trixie or Lana or Scylla, anybody who happens to be around.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, excuse me.
The one that you happen to grab in this case is Lana. She looks up from where she is hard at work hammering out a metal plate with sparks still smoldering in her hair and says, What? What do you want?
I was wondering if you could tell me where your father's being held.
She shakes the sparks out of her eyebrows and says, Wish I could tell you. I mean, it's not like Gus had, like a holding cell or nothing. He's not the county sheriff. I think my best guess, maybe in like a fuel tank or something. Maybe a boiler that he repurposed.
All right, thank you, ma'am. You wouldn't be able to point me in the direction of where all these fuel tanks are, or is there one for each house?
And she says, Gus has a couple. His place, she points around the left corner of the exit point to the garage that you're in right now. He's right across the way from us. Can't miss him.
All right, I was also wondering if you have any extra jackets or work clothes around here. You might be able to loan me for a little bit.
Tons. You, shit. She says, Maggie, give me some spare clothes for these gents, would you? And another daughter goes sprinting out across the floor of the garage up into the main domicile. She says, Maggie will sort you out.
All right, thank you.
Maggie comes back after less than a couple moments with a couple of like heavy multi-knitted cloth coats, as well as like some shitty t-shirts underneath and like heavy jean analog work pants and some boots and gloves if you need them to. Lays them all out. Obviously nothing matches. Obviously they're all completely stained and broken, but they still work.
No, that's exactly what I'm looking for. So yeah. Yeah, I'll take those, and I'll turn to the other guys and say, I'm thinking about maybe putting this on as kind of a, I don't know, pseudo disguise and just having to wander down through town, see what I can pick up. You all right with that?
Sounds like
I
an
see no
excellent
issue with
plan.
this. If there is
And
a
Lee,
spare coat, it would be good to cover myself.
Lee, just let me ask real quick. Is it Vadiv V or Vadiv M?
Vadim.
Mm-hmm.
I've been calling you the wrong name, sorry.
No problem at all.
It's all good.
Where would
Vadim's just like, it's the accent, it's fine.
is Sloan the type who would want to go somewhere private to change, or is he just going to strip down to his skivvies and get these things on?
No, actually, he's going to go someplace private to change. He's also going to find a place to get his Sharps rifle out of the way. He wants to leave it here. He doesn't want to wander through town with that.
Sure.
So in that private place that he changes, if he can find a place to stash that rifle out of sight, that's what he's going to do.
Do you want to go into the domicile part of the trailer and get into like one of their tight closets, or do you want to go out into like the litter-strewn backyard and go behind a tree? Because either of those look like they would work.
No, I want to go inside the building.
Sure. In that case, tucking yourself away in some private corner of the domicile, you can get changed. Hasad, what would you like to do before we jump back to Vadim?
Nothing in particular at this moment.
Sure. In that case, Vadim, after checking in with your compatriots, you wanted to follow Trixie over to the vehicle she was talking about.
And I also grab, if Lana gave spare clothes, like if there's just like a really big, like a trench coat kind of thing, so just like, cover the fact that I'm wearing weird armor.
I see, yeah.
I don't want to. I mean, for all I know, the armor. I haven't seen these people. For all I know, the armor will look kind of like a suit.
A big work apron would definitely do the trick, at least.
Absolutely.
Glance, sort of, right? And following Trixie over to the side of the house, you find something that's kind of a cross between a bulldozer, a train, and an ATV. Like one-person vehicle, big, tread-based, and it has like a hitch in back that's currently dragging a log, and in front it has like a small forklift attachment thing on it. Trixie hops onto it, gives it a start. The way that she starts it, of note, is she pulls like, it looks kind of like an old-timey clutch, but in this case it's the thing that starts the thing. Pulls it, you hear kind of a coughing of the engine, then like a puff of black smoke. She swears and tries again, and this time she jams her foot on a pedal near the floor, and then it starts up. And from here, she uses another pair of levers to turn it back and forth and then pivot. So it's like tank controls. Each lever controls one tread.
Vadim looks at this, and I think he understands.
Yeah.
He's like, this is more familiar than most things, at least. That is very good to know. Thank you. sort of doing a quick look around, and then sort of leaning up against the thing, hopefully in a place. I mean, I'm covered, so a place that isn't too hot.
Yeah.
Who else? Who else you know is loyal to your father? Someone else that I'll be able to go to and speak with.
She turns off the vehicle. And then she says, "Loyal? I hope most people around here are at least somewhat loyal. Pa's done a good job here. No matter what other people say, remember that. Pa's done a good job. I think most people who might not be loyal are scared, you know? But,"
It takes some
she says,
convincing.
"next one over, them's good folks. The boys inside are from them."
Good. I know that you are all working. What are you working for? Is there a project that
Yeah.
you are being put to?
Gus has put in quotas for processing.
I think today might be a good day to go a little lax on the quota. Do you happen to have something like grain liquor present?
Like, for drinking?
No, not for drinking.
Oh,
The
yeah.
sort of stuff that you use to pull warts off of mule hoof.
You're funny. She says, "Yeah, I got something like that."
Do you have any spare glass bottles?
She kicks one on the ground and says, "Help yourself."
The reason I ask is, no matter what happens, there's going to be violence. Even if we try to do this peacefully, this Gus individual, he is lost to something.
Yeah.
I am not a person. I am quite privy to violence, and I had to learn a few tricks to survive.
Yeah.
If you fill a glass with something, either a high-proof liquor or even, I do not believe that you have petroleum oil, something like maybe mechanical grease. Place a heavy cloth that is soaked in the alcohol as a wick, light it
Oh,
and
yeah,
throw
yeah,
it.
yeah. One of them's firebomb.
A firebomb.
Yeah.
They are a good deterrent. It might be good to pre-make a few.
No, I see what you're saying here, but wood cabbages aren't fighters. We're workers, you see.
I understand. I sort of take off a glove and I show my calluses. And sometimes you need to fight for your own work, especially when other people decide how you should work and for whom you should work instead of yourself and your family.
For the first time since you've seen her, she looks visibly scared and kind of kicks the glass bottle on the ground again and says, I'll talk to the girls about it.
I just giving is she's not, does she seem scared of me at all? Just like giving a quick read of like her body language. I'm trying very hard to be able to, like, I know that I'm here to help, but that doesn't mean she will feel like I'm here to help.
She isn't turning away from you at the very least. Like, and you only notice that fear come in when you mentioned violence.
I will move to put one of my now bare hands on her shoulder, just like a light pat, and say, no matter what happens, I will be the first person to go to make the effort.
Yeah,
I do not think any of you can.
heroic.
I try. I pick up the glass bottle and I just sort of like hold it, put my gloves back on, and I give a nod and I head over to the other house.
Over your shoulder, you hear her whisper, "Shit," before she hurries back inside. Let's jump back over to Sloan and then to Hasad. Now, Sloan, having changed and stashed your stuff safely away, what would you like to do?
One quick question.
Yeah.
Do I manage to keep my duster on my person somehow?
Yes.
Was there something large enough to cover that?
The duster is actually not only, like, it's not large enough to be covered by other clothing, but you can put on an apron in front of it, which makes it look much less obvious.
That's what I needed. With the pistol, bandolier will be underneath the clothing. The pistol I'll have in my right pocket.
Yep.
Either of the smock that's covering me or in the duster itself. Now, just for a point of clarification, with the duster, if I concentrate on not focusing on people, people should not be able to recognize my face. Is that correct?
Well, you can play it a couple of different ways, but that's one way of doing about it. It's about like being mysterious, for want of a better term.
Right.
You know, the man with no name sort of deal. So you can
Okay.
be mysterious in a couple of different ways, but as long as you are trying to play up that element, either your character consciously doing it or unconsciously, that effect is going to be kicking in.
Okay. I'm going to go talk to the other guys real quick and say, I'm going to have a wander down through town, see what I can pick up. I should be back in about a half hour or so.
Yep. Only Hasad is there when you come back with Vadim outside. And so, Hasad, any responses to this, or are you good?
I'll just say, I think that's an excellent idea. I'll also head out for a little and return shortly. And just give him a nod.
Let's begin with Sloan then. What would he like to do?
Just going to wander straight out like I'm supposed to be here. I'm going to head down in the direction of... Actually, I'm going to take a roundabout route to get to Gus's place, to get near Gus's place, and just get the lay of the land. Find out, see if there's something that catches my eye as far as not being quite right. If people are acting in a stilted manner in one particular part of town, or if they act like they're walking on eggshells in a particular part of town. Trying to get those kind of vibes from the town itself as I walk through it.
So I have a quick shitty sketch to illustrate real quick. So if you guys poured in this part of the park, and this is the exit, Gus's compound is right across. So Pabbage and Gus are the two flanking compounds, with a couple of others rimming the edge. And then there's that forest bit in the center. I should note that there are a bunch of abandoned trailers right now. And many of them are quite personality-full, but have just been completely ditched. You can see that there are also a bunch of empty places where the grass has died off, where presumably they were up until recently. But besides the Pabbage compound and Gus's compound, there look to only be 3 others that actually have activity in them. Gus's compound, which you only get a glimpse of before you start making your way the long way around, you can see is by far and away the most active and pimped out one. Not only are there a whole bunch of other vehicles that have been clearly stolen, just kind of haphazardly shoved in there to form kind of a... It's not like the keep of a castle, right? It's nowhere near that organized, but it is kind of tight with like a courtyard in the center. But they've also fortified it. They threw up a ramshackle palisade wall around the edge with barbed wire on it as well, and 2 entrance points, both made of swinging chain link fences. They have multiple chugging smokestacks coming out of what look like maybe boilers or small forges. And you can see that at least 2 more of his guys, the ones equipped with bellies, are out in the courtyard. One is looks to be just kind of like dozing off or goofing around or something, and the other one seems to be chewing out a group of people, though he's too far away for even your pretty good ears to quite make out what he's saying. As you make your way around the compound, however, things of note. First of all, people seem to be walking on eggshells no matter where they go. Even at the Pabbage household, people are like the urgency of people trying to bring out like material for the quota is obvious and palpable, even though I don't think Sloan has officially heard about the quota just yet. But it's clear that things are being gathered and Gus's men are presiding over it. People do not meet your eyes as you walk. They don't approach you. They don't call out to you. And you can see that even the ones that are like the furthest away from Gus's compound, as soon as you come to view, they quickly check you over with anxious eyes to see whether you're a threat or not before they get back to their busy work trying to turn scrap into plates. Making your way all the way around, the only other thing that you notice is that of the 3 other households that are still sticking around, one of them, the one that's furthest away from Gus, seems to be in really bad shape. They have, looks like, only a couple of people living there, and they are not producing much plate. Almost none at all, in fact. And they only have 1 person who seems to be able to actually bend the plate into a usable shape. The whole place is, unsurprisingly, very littered, but there's a deep unease in the air, which is only intensified by the overcast early evening and the wind that rocks the upper edges of the trees. Other things you'd like to keep an eye out for or do as you make the long way around to Gus's compound?
Well, one quick observation that I'd like to just see if Sloan understands or if Sloan picks up on. Does it seem like Gus's compound is way overkill for dominating this relatively small community?
Yes.
I mean, almost as not even just a, you know, I want to appear to be powerful. It's almost like maybe there's plans for something more going on. Do I get that feeling, or is this just kind of personality, dominating personality gone haywire?
I could see Sloan make that inference. It's not clear that is the intention. You don't see anything that would indicate that conclusively, but I could see Sloan making the inference, or at the very least, see him as being rather megalomaniacal. A big fish in such a small pond that it's not even in the water very much anymore.
Well, and that's kind of what I'm trying to figure out is, do I get as I'm walking past the Gus's place, is there more there that would be more for expanding the dominating role that Gus has in the region? Because are there more vehicles than would be necessary
Yes.
for the 10 people that he's got under his sway? Okay, so it's a little bit more intense than would be necessary for the
Totally.
domination of this trailer park.
He seems to be acquiring vehicles pretty aggressively. You only saw one other non-trailer vehicle in the entire park during your walk around. That being the one that the Pabbages own, who you heard the engine of outside when Vadim was there.
Okay. Having seen that, I'll just head back to the Babbage's house.
Yep, absolutely. As you are moseying your way back over, let's check in with Hasad. What would he like to do?
Okay. Just shortly after Sloan heads out, I will also be heading out, and I will just stroll out, and I'll be looking around as I do. I would assume I would see the same stuff that Sloan saw when he first looked out from the doorway.
Not quite as much detail, but you would see, across the way from the Pabbage establishment, you see Gus's compound. You can see the piles of scrap being made ready outside of it with one of his bellied toadies overseeing it. And you can also see the exit. I will say, given that you are, as of now, going in a slightly different direction from Sloan and are taking a little bit more time to do it, you would also notice that Gus has actually fortified the exit to the park. So in addition to the palisades he's built around his own compound, he's built one across the exit as well.
Okay. So I am going to, when I see the ally, Gus's ally, overseeing the stacking of plates, I'm going to just smile and stroll over in that direction.
Yep, absolutely. You can see that as he's doing so, or as he's overseeing, he checks a watch on his wrist, kind of a oversized, clunky Ben 10 looking watch, and then yells out, "Tick-tock!" Now, as you get a little bit closer, you can see someone hurries past you with an armful of scrap, straining under the load before dropping it down. You're close enough to also hear the overseer say to them, with absolutely zero remorse, if nothing, a little bit of delight in his voice, "Think you can muster another 2 stacks in 2 minutes, bud?" The other one says, working on it, as he goes rushing back away the way he came, and the man laughs.
Okay, right, let me see. I am just quickly checking the wording of something. Would I, based on what I know about the situation of this place, would I infer that these men, that this guy, is someone important, or is he just a lackey of Gus?
Well, given that there's only 39 total people here, and Gus is the top dog, someone who has this level of tech is probably pretty important.
Okay, right. in that case, I need to. I would like to use familiar face targeting this individual.
Yeah.
And plausibility does not determine the success of this particular pitch, unlike normal pitches. So I have to. I'm not super familiar with this class, apologies.
No problem.
I have to describe the relationship. So what I would like to say,
Yep.
before I get into the paired action of how I recognize them and such,
Yeah.
would it be feasible for, like, when I describe the relationship, do I just describe how we know each other, or do I describe the circumstances that led us to know each other? How
can do
much
both.
leeway do I have here?
How do you know each
Cool,
other? How do
okay.
you feel about each other?
I will say that he does not like me particularly much, because when I met him a month ago, was this all started already a month ago?
This was started about a month ago, so you may want to go further back.
Cool. Okay. No, that's fine. 3 weeks ago.
Yep.
When I met him 3 weeks ago, trying to pawn his suit for a lot of money, I refused to pay him the amount he was asking. So he's not super keen on me.
Okay, I am going to accept that with 2 qualifications. 1, it was done by post as a pen pal type dealio. And
Fair.
2, he was writing under a pseudonym, which is how you still know him.
Okay, cool.
I will let
Should
you come
I
up
make
with the
up
pseudonym.
the pseudonym, or
Yes.
okay? Right. Let me see. I guess I'll just go for a normal name instead of something weird. I'll call him Marcus. His pseudonym's Marcus.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. And so yeah, I'll just walk up with like a pleasant smile on my face and just say, "Ah, Marcus, I thought it was you. The manner in which you speak to people is quite distinctive."
The fuck you say to me, you little shit? You think I haven't forgotten?
Well, I'm sure you haven't forgotten. However, I just thought it might be prudent to approach you and discuss what's going
What
on
the
here.
fuck is a prudent? Speak English.
Actually, okay, at this
He would say
point,
metro for the record.
I will
We substitute in.
yeah, I will chuckle a bit. Is there something nearby that I could prop my scythe up against?
Yeah, one of the plates, like the stacks of plates.
Cool. So I'll do that. I'll prop the scythe up against it and let go of it. And because the scythe makes me seem less threatening when I'm holding it, that suggests that when I'm not holding it, I seem more threatening by comparison.
I see what you're going for.
So what I'm just going to do is, as soon as I put it down, I just smile brightly at him and just say, "I don't mean to be rude. I'm just saying that perhaps if your employer was to find out you attempted to dispose of his property, he might be somewhat displeased."
He takes a step towards you with his suit clattering. There's a big puff of smoke that comes over his back as he does so. And he gets his head down low to yours, trying to stick his jaw out in your face, and he puts a finger under your chin and he says, "You breathe a word, you little shit, and I'll have him chew you out like you wouldn't believe. You're going to wish you bought it."
Perhaps I will. Perhaps that's why I'm here now. Maybe I'm looking to see if these things are worth the price you were going to be charging.
Yeah, shut your mouth for a second. I need to keep a schedule here. You shut up until I finish, right?
Very well. I'll allow you to return to your job, but perhaps be a little politer to the people you're bossing around.
He says,
or else my
I
tongue might just slip.
am very polite, I will have you know. And he takes out a megaphone and says, "All right, you..." People! And he says, time's up. Now let's see what we have. Full stack from the Pabbages, very good. Full stack from the Easterwelds, not bad. And what's this? He looks up and says, Yoo-hoo! I think that you're missing a stack or two. There's silence. He says, you know who you are, Ordwins. And after a
Rob,
moment...
I have a question.
Yep.
If this is being shouted out by megaphone, how audible is this?
Super audible. All
right, cool.
I'll give responses to it in a second, but...
No, I just wanted the
Hasad
names. I just wanted to make sure I heard the names.
Yep. The Easterwelds and the Ordwins. There's one other family, but he hasn't got to them yet. And Hasad would see around a corner 2 people come slowly with their faces down. They're looking past their brows, and you can see with no uncertain terms one of them is visibly shaking with his hands in his pockets. Now, briefly checking in with Sloan before we go back to Vadim. You hear this call as you are making your way back to the Pabbages, and the Ordwins actually hurry past you when they are called. There's 2 of them, though the household you passed did have more. This was the one that had very few people left.
Right.
Vadim. Actions from you. This is coming in. Actually, you can catch up a little bit to get to this point. So let's keep with you for a moment before we get to this point in time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I was heading over to the good folks' house, the good neighbors.
Yep,
I don't remember
absolutely.
their name. I don't think I got their name.
You didn't get their name. However, you'll learn shortly, I'm sure.
That's fine.
Now, this is a reasonably busy house, but it's definitely a lot smaller than the Pabbages. There's also a much broader range of ages here. They have children, and if Pabbage's daughters have children, you haven't seen them. Now, as you get a little bit closer, you can see that outside they're putting the finishing touches on their last stack of plates. And you can see, presumably, the patriarch of the family looks up. Big guy, black suspenders over a bare chest, covered in burn marks and scars long since healed, and has on a tiny little pair of golden pince-nez, kind of goofily standing out against his generally burly physique.
I love it. Well, in that case, I will, sort of seeing him, I will try and catch his eye. Just sort of like, I will move in his direction and keep eye contact.
His eyes disappear as he squints at you. You see that he nudges someone next to him who looks around, and this guy who's like, then puts on the same look. And then eventually the whole family is looking at you like this, out of the windows.
Yeah. Yep, this is fine. I will just walk right up to him.
Yep.
And say, may I speak with you, good sir?
He looks at you down his nose. He has a big, like, smithing hammer across his shoulder. He says, you talk funny, son.
I've been told this. I am a friend of the Pabbages.
Oh, why didn't you say so? All the faces vanish as they go back to work.
Yeah. You must forgive me, a local custom and all. Is there I know that you have a great deal of work to do. Is there a place where we can speak in minor private?
No, work's finished for today.
Then the second part of that statement.
Yeah. Come on round back.
He brings you around back. They
Aye.
also have a chicken coop, though it seems to be substantially better kept than the Pabbages. Children are feeding the...
If I get close enough, I will say hello to the chickens.
Yeah, you would be able to. And
Just
the
sort of
children
like
Their children are feeding the chickens, and they also seem to have a little pigeon roost behind the chicken coop as well.
Do they look like carrier pigeons?
They do.
Ha! Ballin'. So yeah, but yeah, once we sort of get to the sort of secluded space, I'll say, I do not mean to be so blunt or to bring this about, but Old Man Babbage called for a little bit of help with your situation
He
here.
did.
I'm aware that he is a very insular individual. That is why I figured it would elicit such a response. but being in prison will do that one.
Blister and wind. If Pavage is calling in help, it must be the apocalypse or something. That man's got pride deeper than tree roots.
I used to have those. Well, there are three of us. Myself, another individual who looks like a common farmer, and the third one you will probably not notice, the sneaky fellow.
Right. But
We
you're
have-
going to do something about it then.
Indeed. But first, we want to know where the old man is being held.
I don't know where the old man's being held. None of us has been inside of Gus's place since he started remodeling, you know.
And what does he bring in? Does he bring anything?
Yeah, he's been making shipments out to Aldeniner. I think he's been custom buying stuff. I couldn't tell you, though, because it always comes in covered.
This is fair. No, I ask because if I were to hold somebody prisoner, I would probably hold them in the most fortified place. I do not know if your piles of flattened metal, is that brought in a load? Is it clean? Is it a place that someone could hide in, or is it just placed in front of the walls?
He ships them out on pallets. He says that's a quota that he started putting in about 3-4 weeks ago, just after it started happening.
I don't know what he's up to, but I hope to find out.
The megaphone blares out, and everyone, even him, looks like spooked. Even though he's a big man, you can see the fear in his eyes. And you hear the one that Hasad knows as Marcus say, "Easter roads." The man holds his breath, and then, after a moment, exhales.
There. He's happy with what we have for the day.
But then as he gets onto the Ordwinds, you hear the mean tone in his voice come through.
Shit,
says the man.
That's not... I want to do something, but if I play my hand too quickly, we might be all in great trouble. I have
understand.
another question.
Yeah.
There is a turn of vernacular that I have heard used amongst you. It was, what was it? Was it chew?
Chew or chewing. Yeah.
It was to chew or get chewed. What is this?
Yeah, that's something that Gus started saying, and then his feller starts saying it too. He says, all I know is they've been threatening to chew us. I don't know what it means, but look at them. Look at the ugly bastards. If it's anything like what they could do to us, it's probably no good. He says, and what they've been saying is that he shakes his head and after a moment takes off his glasses and says, I hope the Ordwinds are okay. They've been threatening if we didn't hit quotas, they're going to chew us. One person per missing stack. That's what they said.
Hopefully we will not find out what that is, or we will. Listen, today, sometime today, we are going to take action. When we do, I know that the Pabbages already said that you here are workers, you are not fighters.
Yeah.
Do you think you might be able to put out a little bit of muscle?
Try my best, sir. I mean,
Here is what I will say, my friend. And I will step, very much, full posture just in front of him. I do not need you to bring weapons or armor. I will give you.
I mean, I've got caught up in, dust yard scraps before.
It will not take a lot for us to deal with this Gus fellow, I think. But it will take his eyes not to be on what matters.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately will mean commotion.
He shivers. Right. All right. I'll tell my family. What's your name, stranger?
I am Vadim.
The what?
You may call me V.
V. I can remember that. Lawrence.
Lawrence. Lawrence. My mouth is not used to
You
this.
can do Larry if you want. I mean, most folks around here call me Big Lawrence or Big Larry, so just take your pick.
Big Larry. Big Larry works.
Yeah. Kids, inside. The few who are still feeding the pigeons and eavesdropping go scurrying inside. Says, all right, V, you take care.
You too, Big Lawrence. I will turn away, just practice Lawrence a couple times.
Yeah.
And I will try and look out for a few of my buddies.
Let's jump over
And
to
I don't
Sloan.
want to dive out anywhere yet.
Yeah.
But I want to look.
Vadim, the first person Vadim would see would be Sloan, who is currently making his way around, but he's a little behind you in time now, so let's catch him up. Sloan, you would see the Ordwins hurry past. Not that you necessarily have a name to him yet, but you can probably infer pretty quickly. And as you circle a little closer to the Pabbages, you can also see Hasad with his scythe placed up against one of the stacks, standing quite complacently next to Gus's henchmen. The two Ordwins have come up next to those two as well. Do you have any other actions you'd like to take as the two Ordwins are coming in before whatever discussion or confrontation there happens?
No, I don't.
Yeah. Are you going to continue making your way towards the Pabbages, or are you going to stop or re-angle?
No, I'm going to make my way to the Pabbages.
Yep.
When Sloan heard this yelling and this obvious building confrontation with this family whose name I don't know exactly, but I can assume.
Yep.
That really sets Sloan's hackles on edge.
Yeah.
I need to go back and get to the Pabbages, retrieve my rifle, and make my way here within time. My goal is, let me put it that way, my goal is to get my rifle and climb up on top of the Pabbage's house.
Absolutely.
Just to be in a place where I can observe what's going on and have my rifle at hand.
Are you going to move more briskly in order to do so quickly?
Yeah.
Now, in that case, you can see as you approach the Pabbages, none of them are looking at you. In this case, the Pabbage daughters are, for the first time you see all 7 of them, they've all gathered in the mouth of their garage with the other 2 men who are helping them out. They seem to have left, but now only the 7 girls are out in the garage, huddled relatively close together, all looking scared. They are looking dead at the center where this confrontation is seemingly soon to happen. So too does the family across from them, the one that they spoke well of. But you can push past them and quickly get in to grab your rifle and try to get out onto the roof. How do you want to climb out onto the roof? There's not like a stair access point, though there are many windows, and of course half the outside has been kind of ripped open. But I guess you don't want to climb out in the more open part because that would mean you're visible as you climb. So how do you want to go about this?
I'm looking for if there's a pile of boxes, crates, anything that's behind the building.
Yep.
In other words, opposite the donut hole center of the compound, of the overall compound. That's what I want to try and use to climb up onto the roof. I don't want to draw attention to myself if I can help it.
Absolutely. They have the chicken coop out there. And while...
Is that... Go ahead.
While much
No,
of
go
it is chicken wire, it does have a wooden structure that looks like it could take your weight.
That's what I'll go for then. If that's close enough for me to be able to make a leap to get up on top of the building.
Exactly. Yeah, it's close enough that you can jump and get your hands on the top and your foot on a windowsill.
That works.
Yep.
And the first thing I will do is with the Sharp's rifle. I almost hate to do this, but I'm going to toss that up onto the roof ahead of me.
Yep.
So that it's not something that's getting caught on anything and pulling me back down if I make a misstep.
Totally. Now, also, as you throw it up, you notice there isn't like a hollow clatter or anything. It hits in like a relatively just soft clunk rather than anything that makes a lot of noise. And as you make your way up, you see why. They seem to have put gravel on their roof, maybe to keep it down from the wind or something like that. And this also means that moving around up here is like going to be like you're less liable to slip, but at the same time, it's not going to be comfortable, especially if you're trying to get down low.
Sure. Once I get up on top, is that going to be something I'm in the process of doing, or am I there?
You would notice this as you're climbing up, but given that you have a plus to reflex, this jump into climb up is nothing that you'll have to struggle over. And so you're getting up onto the top as you're noticing this.
Okay. Once I'm there, I'm going to crawl my way up to the front of the building.
Yep.
and then look over the top to orient myself and figure out what I might end up having to do in terms of a target.
Sure. The gravel
my
crunches
big-
underneath you as you crawl, but your apron actually conveniently protects you from most of that. But either way, you can soon get to like a promontory position near where presumably the cab of this vehicle was before it was converted into a more permanent home.
One of the things that when I do get into the position where I can oversee the coming confrontation, the thing that I want to make sure of is my two companions. They're the ones who are going to be front and center on this. So I want to be able to keep an eye on them primarily with the rifle.
Yep, Hasad is easy to spot. Vadim, are you going to be like taking your eyes off the center to try to locate Vadim, or are you just focusing on the center? Pardon, did you hear the question I just...
I'm sorry. Was that me?
Yes, I was saying, no problem. Hasad is easy to find, but Vadim is not obvious to you immediately. Are you going to take your eyes off the center to look for him, or are you just focused on the center?
I'm focused on the center right now.
Absolutely. In that case, let's jump back over to Hasad. Hasad sees the two
Okay.
Ordwins come scurrying up, though they drag their feet as they get closer. The man you know as Marcus says,
It seems that you have missed your quota. That's a shame. Lazy. Should have started sooner. Deadlines, you know.
slaps his hands together.
Not good. What's the word?
Here,
Fancy ass. What am I looking for? It's not good for them to do it. It's not
Insufficient? Inadequate?
inadequate. I like that one. Yeah. That is bad.
he says,
And remember the terms. What did we say? Go on. Talk. I asked you a question. It would be rude and impolite to not respond in kind, would it not?
and the older of the two said, we were told that if we did not have the plates required, then for each plate missing, one of us gets chewed, right?
Yep.
He just kind of looks at them with like a smug smile on his face.
So there you are. Off we go. Chew time, baby. Exciting. You'll love it.
The two of them look much more frightened after he says that, and neither of them follow as he beckons.
At this point, I would like to retrieve my scythe. I pick it up innocuously, and then just add, I want to say, Marcus, it wouldn't be a problem if I was to come along and observe, would it? I have been hearing that phrase tossed about, and if I'm considering making a purchase, surely I should know what all about these wonderful machines of yours.
He
Don't
looks at
worry,
you.
I'm no threat. I'm not going to tell anyone.
And then you see that like a cunning smile across his face. He says,
Sure you can.
and then he looks to the two Ordwins and points to the younger of them, who Hasad had seen straining under one of the piles as he brought it over here earlier.
You're off the hook, Jeremy.
And Jeremy perks up. He says,
What? You heard me. No chew for you. We have a new candidate.
he slaps Hasad on the shoulder, heartily.
Well, yeah, actually, I've got one mite, so I can probably manage to
You
not
can.
stumble when I'm slapped. But I'll just smile and act naive.
And
I'm not concerned. He clearly doesn't plan to murder me at all.
the young boy Jeremy looks equal parts relieved and scared, and he looks to you and says, "Are you?" But before he can say, "Are you sure?" the other one, his family member, slaps a hand over his mouth and says, "Right, let's get this over with. Come on." Whatever the hell chewing means. And Marcus
turns around and says, "Follow me, gentlemen." Now, Vadim would have heard Marcus's voice, given that it's very loud. And in this case, Sloan would have caught the last third of that exchange and would have, in his current position, would have heard the other voices softly but audibly, whereas Marcus is very loud. The two of you still, at this point now, both have eyes on this interaction, but Hasad, you have follow-up.
I'm just going to follow along behind him to see where he takes me.
Absolutely. He turns around and starts marching straight towards Gus's compound, giving a wave towards the other two of Gus's toadies who are over there as well. The one who I described to Sloan earlier as kind of goofing off is at this point completely asleep. He's like sitting without a chair because his suit seems to be able to take him just sitting down on his own knees without it being exhausting. So he's in kind of an awkward seated position in midair. But the other one, who is currently picking his teeth, looks up and gives like a little nod of his head like that. Now, as Hasad is being brought over towards Gus's compound, any actions from Sloan in his overwatching position?
How far away is Hasad?
Hasad from you would be like a real big stone's throw away. So shooting range wise, easy. But in terms of like other stuff, on the far side. What would you like to do?
How far away? No, he's taking them to Gus's compound.
Yep.
How far away is that from where they are right now?
From where they are right now, if we're going to like triangulate the position from you to them to the compound, they're like just over halfway there already from your position. The park's not huge, so there's not a whole lot of space to cover, but enough so that they're going to be walking for 30, 40 odd seconds.
At this point, I don't know where Vadim is.
Yep.
I don't want to take any kind of an action that might take him by surprise. No matter, I figure he's probably doing something as well.
Yep.
What I'm going to do with the Sharp's rifle is just zero in on the guy who's escorting Hasad away. I'm going to track him with my rifle from this position on top of the roof.
Yep. While his face is still like is not fully obscured, he had his visor up when he was talking with Hasad. The back of his head you can see is reasonably well protected. The back of his neck is fairly open, so you have potential in there. And so too, you can see the lower legs, the back of the lower legs, that's reasonably exposed. So you have a better picture of where the weaknesses on this armor are from watching him march away. Hasad, do you have any follow-up actions as you're being led away before we jump over to Vadim?
I don't think so, no. I want
Absolutely.
to see what's inside this compound.
And Vadim, across the yard, you were able to observe pretty much all of this interaction, or at least the bit that we just did just now, but you couldn't hear all of it.
Yeah, I was about to say. So I'm going to see that and just kind of internally. He knows what he's doing. Wouldn't be here if he didn't. So I will. So looking around, there's a ton of these like empty trailers and stuff. None of them do any of them look barricaded. Like specifically from the outside with something you could only move with some element of unreasonable strength. I'm trying to see if perchance they have an external prison, but I'm guessing that they just have him inside.
Looking around, you do see that a couple of them look like they have the main entrances welded, but the windows are not secured.
I'll look in.
Yeah, and moseying over and peeking your way in, desolate. Looks like it's been ransacked before it was welded shut. I should note, before you make your way over to look in, Big Lawrence would say to you, "I'm guessing that's one of your partners over there, because that was a good thing he just did, letting Jeremy off the hook."
Yes, that is an interesting fellow. He's a farmer. Not really sure what else yet, but we live and learn. I don't exactly know what he's doing, but we'll see.
What does Vadim want to do from here?
From here, So if there's no places that look like an externally barricaded part, I'm gonna look around for any other vehicles that isn't just the one that the Pavages had.
And you can see after a quick scan and maybe even a little confirmation with Big Lawrence, besides the trailers themselves, many of which are decommissioned for easy movement and would have to be repurposed for it, Gus has confiscated every active vehicle on the compound, except for the Pavages.
All right, good to know. Because the moment I'm thinking about, fight Killdozer with Killdozer.
Yes.
Throw car at suit. But in that case, what I'll do is I'll try and find the. I'll try and look around for Sloan at this point.
Yep.
In fact, I remember what I said, so I'll immediately actually I'll probably check like if there's like a hill nearby, or if there's like a silo that I missed or something.
And I will say it will probably take Vadim several minutes to find Sloan. And so while he even just like to spot,
I will yeah, this is fair. While I'm doing that, then I will be wandering closer towards the wall.
Okay, towards Gus's compound.
Towards Gus's compound.
That would actually make Sloan slightly more visible from where you were before. So in that case, it might be a little quicker. Jumping back over to Hasad, with Sloan able to see everything that's going on as well and to hear most of it. As you approach the palisade, the minion on the inside marches over and unlocks it. Not to say you couldn't easily scale the thing, but there is barbed wire and stuff, and it seems to be sealed with like not like a padlock or anything like that, but almost like a big crank that it seems would take a considerable amount of force to move unless you had this suit's augmentation. And as he gives it a crank, and the palisade door swings open creakily, the guy who greets Marcus and you two says,
"So is it gonna happen? They missed their quota?" "You heard me, didn't you? Missed it by 2. Idiots. Lazy. That's what it is. Lazy."
The other one says,
"Shit. Okay, I guess we're gonna do some chewing."
he looks almost surprised. And as you do so, Marcus gives like a goofy bow and gestures towards Gus's compound has several buildings and several entrances, or trailers and several entrances, and he points you over towards a garage-looking building. The main door to the garage is closed, but there is a smaller side door. He gestures over towards that, and he says,
"My good fellows, you are weighted with something, I don't know. Just go in there."
Very well. I will casually saunter off, taking my enormous scythe with me.
Indeed.
As you do.
And Marcus follows behind. As you approach the door, it swings open, and you can see the 4th of Gus's minions. This is the first woman that you've seen with one of the bellies on. She is similarly large and augmented, like the others are. And also of note, you can see that her suit has a visible flamethrower augment on her right arm that currently has a fire at its tip, which smolders slightly as you approach. And she says, "2 for chew?" And Margaret says, "Yep." The other one is following behind, looking curious. So you have 3 augmented people who are flanked around you as you are approaching the door into the garage.
Okay. And inside the garage, do I see anything in particular, any special equipment?
As you are entering inside, before you enter inside, Sloan, do you have any final actions before Hasad leaves your sight? The garage he's entering does not have windows.
My first thought is I don't want to start anything with not knowing where Vadim is. I'm going to have to go find Vadim. That's going to be my ultimate right now got to do it action. I've got to find him so that we can make a plan, because this is not looking good to me.
Yep. Are you gonna break eyesight and look around?
What I'm gonna do is I'll take a quick look around, then I'm gonna get off the roof as quickly as I need to in order to search for him on the ground if I have to.
You see Vadim almost immediately, but your position is hidden enough that he hasn't seen you yet, and if you signal to him, you will probably be seen. So what would you like to do? Do you want to jump off and go around to meet him?
What I'm gonna do is if I signal him, so at least he knows where I am, then I'm gonna as soon as I catch his attention, I'm gonna get down off the roof and go to where he is.
Absolutely. Like a wave or something else?
Yeah, just a wave. Just try to catch his attention out of the corner of his eye.
Take
Just
maybe
from movement.
take maybe 5 seconds for Vadim's eyes to find you, and you can see that Sloan is tucked away inconspicuously on the top of the Pavage's roof.
As soon as he sees me, as soon as we make eye contact, I'm getting down off the roof and going to his location.
Certainly.
I'll do a kind of a wait there type of hand motion.
Yep.
And then I'll get off the roof and go to where he is.
And Vadim, actions from you after Sloan
I
signals.
will, after Sloan's signal, I will wait and see if there's any of the Pavage folk nearby.
There are. You can see that all 7 girls are out front watching with clear trepidation as the 2 are led into the garage at Gus's compound, which you can see from here, but only slightly. It's kind of obscured by the donut hole at the center of the compound full of trees.
Do those trees seem out of place, by the way? Or they're just trees?
No, it seems like they were probably too annoying to remove when this thing was being turned into a trailer park. The ground is more elevated where they are, and they are pretty burly and well-entrenched pines.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yep.
But yeah, I'll sort of wave down one of the Pavage people.
Are you going to approach as well? Because you're a little ways away, so it would be a little awkward.
Oh, in that case, yeah, I'll approach a bit. Just
Yep.
sort of be huddled, find something greasy on the ground and do one of these.
Yeah. Now, as you do so, one of the daughters, one of the ones you haven't met yet, says, "Did that fella that you just brought in, he just got Jeremy off the hook and is going inside to get chewed. Did you see that?
I did.
That was, I mean, really brave."
Well, it's our job. We're here to help you out, even a little bit. Hopefully, goes all right.
She says, "I'm just saying, man's crazy, or brave, or something. I don't know."
They are normally synonymous.
At this point, Sloan rounds the bend.
Ah. You
Vadim,
you solved that, yes?
We got a problem. Did you see that they took Hasad into one of those buildings inside of Gus's compounds? I got a feeling that this whole chewing thing, maybe they haven't even done it yet, and he's likely to be the test case, and that kind of puts me on edge. We either got to do one of two things. We got to go in and try and help him out, or maybe start a distraction, and maybe he can get out himself. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I have an idea for a distraction. There is a vehicle behind the Pavages. Could try ramming it into the gate over there.
Robbie, one quick question.
Yeah.
Did I notice you said that the exit had been fortified. The exit to the park had been fortified.
Yes.
Is it fortified toward the outside or toward the inside?
Excellent question. You only noticed it was fortified on your way back to the Pavage's house after your little once around. It is fortified to the inside. Namely, they're trying to stop people in from getting out.
Okay. All right. If you think it's time to go in and I guess mix things up, I just don't know what that farmer can do. He seems like a real nice guy, but I don't know if he's gonna make it through this without our help.
I agree. But
My concern is that we don't know enough about what's going on, but at the same time, I can't leave him to his fate without at least trying to help him.
I would agree. I have another idea that is less drastic, though. Apparently the Gus fellow has been making orders with the nearby town of Oldininer. he's requesting supplies of some sort, and they come in shipments covered. People don't know what it is. I could say, since I'm clearly not part of this rabble, no offense. I say it because we're like right next to Trixie. Those, that I am a representative here to discuss an element of the dealings. It would definitely open the gate, and
If you're
perhaps
willing-
put a momentary pause on this chewing.
What would you have me doing while you're doing that?
Well, if you would be able to work with, I guess, Trixie, to maneuver their vehicle into a position that if things do start getting crazy, you can charge in with, or at least put it on, put the throttle down and let it drive forward. Do you know how these things work?
Robbie, do I have any experience with vehicles like this?
That's actually a question that you can answer for me. Like, based on Sloan's backstory, would he have ever encountered, like, closest parallel, a tractor or a train?
I got to be honest with you, no.
Yeah. So in that case, that's
this
the
is
best
not-
answer we got.
Yeah, this is not something that he would be very familiar with. So now, hang on a second though. Well, Vadim, you could do that, but at the same time, if you're familiar with them vehicles, maybe I could be the one to go up and try and talk to them, try and get inside the compound. You could bring the vehicle down. What do you think?
You are best, from what I understand of your... I point at the rifle. Of your armament, you are best at a range, no? I would not
Yeah,
want you to sacrifice that.
That sounds good to me. I know this is your plan, but I'm afraid that I wouldn't be able to help you with that dang vehicle unless we could get one of the Babbages to give us a hand with it.
I'm gonna walk over to Trixie.
Trixie is currently dispersing with the other women, still looking over their shoulder as they start to move back inside. She says, "Yeah, what?"
I just figured I'd let you know. Plans are accelerating. If there's a lot of noise that starts happening, do me a favor. Get in that vehicle, point it at the gate, push the throttle down, and jump.
Just let it go in. Right. Nothing more, right? We don't gotta,
No, you don't have to drive it. Just, again, anything else you need to do, you will know what to do.
Right. I'll unhitch the log.
Trust me, we appreciate it.
I'm sure you
All
damn well
right.
do.
I approach the gate.
And Sloan, what would you like to do?
I actually stop Vadim real quick. Vadim, hang on a second.
Yes.
Okay, here's the thing. When I was up there on the top of the building, I noticed that the back of these Jokers' armor has some weak spots. I need to be able to have access to that. So what I think I might try and do real quick, is see if I can find a place on the opposite side of their compound where if they're coming out to talk to you, or if that truck rams into the front of their compound and they come out to investigate, I want to be behind them before all this starts. Give me about 5 minutes to try and find a vantage point on the far side of the compound so that I'm behind their gate, so that I can have some easier shots and maybe take some of them out through, again, some of them weak points that they got in that armor.
This is the point where I'm gonna draw my revolver and just be like, and what are these weak points you're saying?
Back of the neck, there's some weak points. There's a weak point. The back of the leg, weak point. What was that? Was there one in the arm at the elbow,
Yep.
Robbie? Was that?
Arms at the elbow, and also at the crease where, like on the lower back, like the pants line, so to speak.
Gotcha. And right there at the base of their spine, which is probably one, either that or the neck. That's what I'm going to be aiming at. But from the front, I haven't seen too many weak points, but I just think we need every advantage we can get if we have to take on 5 of these things at once.
At a quick glance, are there any vantage points on the other side of the
Trees.
compound? Like,
Lots of trees.
Lots of trees. Okay, so in that case, I'll say, all right, I will make sure that if it comes to it, I'm very fast. I will draw them. I will draw them out towards the courtyards. If you're on the other side of there, should be a good vantage for you. Well,
That works.
best of luck. I hope I don't die.
Give me 5 minutes. I hope you don't die either. And then I'll take off around the compound with the rifle to try and find a tree that I can climb just high enough to where I can shoot over any wall or any obstructions that they've got. So again, hopefully be able to shoot them in those weak spots in the back.
Okay, so 2 questions. First of all, are you getting into the woods or are you crossing the compound by foot? Or like in the open sections of the compound proper, which is, or of the camp proper, which would be a lot faster, of course, but of course you'd be more visible.
I mean, yeah, I wish I could say that I'd be going through the trees, but I'm a bit concerned about our buddy Hasad. I would be taking a more direct route to get to the other side. If they see what I'm doing, they see what I'm doing.
Certainly. And you're trying to just get into the trees that are around Gus's compound, get like a little ways in and then climb one. Is that roughly correct?
Right.
Sure. The pines here are old, and many of them are quite big. Like pines, they have a lot of shitty little branches that stick out all the way up.
Yep.
And as such, you have a relatively easy time climbing once you find one.
And I'm not going to, sorry, go ahead.
You first.
No, I'm just going to go up high enough, like I say, to be able to see over the walls, whatever obstruction. You said they had a little bit of a palisade.
Yep.
I want to be able to just see above that and get a good shot, get a good sighting in on the gate area itself.
Absolutely.
Which is where I'm assuming Vadim is going to head.
And since their compound it takes up a little bit of space. Do you want to go to the section of the woods near the closer side of the compound, or the woods near the further side of the compound, or somewhere midway?
Well, I want to be as close to the compound as I can.
Sure, but I'm saying like it takes up a bit of a perimeter. So across that perimeter, if they take up, from between 9 and 11 on a clock face, where behind them in the woods do you want to be positioning?
Oh, geez. 9 and 11?
With 9 being closer and 11 being further.
Let's split the distance and go with 10.
You got it. In this case, are you sprinting to get here, by the way, or are you...
No, that much movement would definitely draw attention. More of a quicker walk.
Absolutely. In this case...
Until I get to the trees, then I'll sprint.
Perfect. As Sloan briskly walks across the compound, Vadim, what do you want to do before we jump back over to Hasad?
How close is Big Larry?
Big Larry is visible in the neighboring, not driveway, but neighboring area right in front of their garage. He's still outside, and he and his family are still craning over to see what the heck is going to happen to Hasad and the Ordwin fellow as they vanish inside of the garage out of sight.
Yep. I'm going to go approach him.
Yep.
Big Larry. Given what we've just observed, our plans might have escalated a bit.
Seemed like it.
I mentioned this to the Pebbages, but if you could make any sort of firebomb or something sticky that will grab, when thrown will just, oil slick, grease, grain liquor, that sort of thing. Glass bottles, wick, light, throw, that sort of thing,
Right. We're waiting for your signal, right?
It will be very noticeable. Another thing, I don't know what sort of tools you all use. Could you show me? I'm used to work myself.
Yeah, all sorts.
He gestures into his garage and gives you a very perfunctory tour. Think of it like an auto body shop plus. Like they have a lot of the standard auto body shop stuff, plus a bunch of lumbering sort of things like that you might be familiar with, plus a lot of just metalworking things in general. Everything from massive oversized calipers to heavy rivet bolts, like riveters that they can drill bolts in at short range, that sort of thing.
So are there any like pneumatics, or is that too techy here?
Pneumatics do not exist here yet, or at least not sophisticated.
Didn't think
ones.
so.
They have pistons, but nothing
yeah.
really pneumatic.
But nothing that'll just.
Yeah.
So what I'll say is, one of the three of us observe that their armor seems to be weakest at the back of the neck, place sort of a little bit above the waist, back of the legs. So if it comes to close quarters, I pick up like is that just like a fire axe, like a fireman's axe sort of thing? I just pick this. I'm like, this would do.
Just give him a whack.
Yes. However, that being said, if you can, if it comes to it, draw them further, other than the obvious, drawing them towards the courtyard. My ally is going to be hiding up in those trees.
Right.
He's armed with a firearm and is going to be taking shots at them. So the best positioning of those various spots towards his direction.
Sure. I mean, we got a rifle, but it's no good for nothing bigger than a bunny.
But it is still scary.
All right, I'll get the missus to grab that.
And do you have anything that will that can make smoke? You have a lot of pine here.
Oh,
Do you have
yeah, we got plenty.
pine tar?
Listen, man, if you were looking for smoke, this is the place to be.
Because from what I can tell of their armor, and correct me if I'm wrong, Robbie, they don't have like visors.
They do have
that are like
they do have visors, but
they
they're very
don't
clunky.
Yeah, but these don't look like they're gonna have like thermal or like these are not electric supported that I can
This
tell.
is a welding mask.
These are welding masks. So I'm gonna say, their helmets are similar to welding masks, and lack of sight will be able to help the both of you. You will be quicker, so in moments of confusion, removing that sense for them is quite good.
Right, smoke, a lot of smoke.
A lot of smoke. And lastly, do you have road flares or something that uses magnesium, something that burns red and will burn through smoke?
I think we got a flare somewhere. I can ask around.
Well, because if there's a great deal of smoke, my marksman will not be able to see through it, but he'll be able to spot the magnesium flares.
How the heck do you think of this shit, man? All right, we can make it happen.
I unfortunately had to go to war instead of getting to build wonderful machines.
Yeah, I see. All right, we'll make it happen. I'll find that flare if it's the death of me. You get it?
That's right. Here, you know what? Let me help. I need a few minutes before he's in position. Here, my hands are yours.
Now, in this case, you are put to task with not only helping create fire bombs out of, and also they make little smoke ordnances from various overclockable sections of how to describe this, little miniaturized gear contraptions that they can quickly overclock and churn coal dust everywhere. But before we jump to Hasad, I gotta run to the bathroom. Let's take a
How dare you!
2-minute break, and then we'll go back and get to Hasad, if that's okay with you, friendos.
Yes. I will
break.
go get myself some water.
Lovely. Everyone in chat, if you're enjoying the mission or you have thoughts or questions, fire away whenever I'm back, or anyone else who's around. Feel free to answer as well. I'm back. Okay, quickly say hello to chat. Love this setting, by the way. Thank you very much, Tomasz. I'm glad you like it.
All right.
Lee is back as well. Once Reece is back, we'll
I
jump
have
back
water.
in.
And I also got my coat because it's damn cold down here.
Sorry.
It's what it's.
Okay. In that case, let
It'll
us...
confuse the continuity.
Let's jump back into it. So, Hasad, normally what I would do at this point is I would actually have everyone else leave the call so that we can do this privately. But I think that would be a logistical nightmare. And so, and I trust these guys to separate what their characters know in and out. And so, let's take it from what Hasad is doing right now. You're brought into the garage. It is packed. There are churning boilers and like heavy machinery whirring around you. It's swelteringly hot in here. There's a large furnace nearby that's completely open and is like belching ash and bits of spark out into the room. And it's full of tools and gadgets. However, most interestingly, in the center of the room, you can see that there is how to describe it? Like, it looks almost like a shower stall that was like ripped out of a building and stuck into place. You know, it's like a little podium with walls, so to speak. And as you're marched into this room, the woman who met you at the door points to the shower stall looking thing and wordlessly indicates for you and the Ordwin fellow to approach. But as you're doing so, a door creaks open into another section, and you hear incredibly heavy metal footsteps come thumping into the room. Hasad, you have things.
Well, I did, but then that guy walked into the room, and now I have different things.
Yeah.
So I think what I'll do is I'll just stop here. I'll stop in my tracks as soon as the door opens and that guy starts walking in, and I will turn towards him and just look as if I'm waiting for him to approach to speak to me. But while I'm doing that, I actually will just sort of zone out a bit, and I'm going to, like, as I await him, my eyes sort of glaze over a bit, and I'm pondering the shower-looking thing in the middle. And I am going to use Fork in the Road to attempt to determine what it does precisely. My guess is, like, obviously in this case, the metaphorical fork in the road is like whether or not I go in or remain outside of the presumably going to kill me in some way machine. But yeah, my guess is that this thing somehow converts people into a type of fuel, which then powers their machine things, their suits.
Absolutely. And as you activate Fork in the Road, your vision glazes over. And you see a rather surreal vision. I'm sure you've had dreams in the past where, like, you were in great pain but didn't feel it. You know what I mean? But you know you're in pain. And you feel immense pain as you are bathed in red flower petals. In this vision, you find that your clothes have left you, and you can tell that you're suffering and in great agony, and yet it's entirely numb to you as these red flower petals fall all around you, and then your vision ends.
Okay. Excellent. And that was, I mean, that was good in that it confirms my theory of this thing is not something I want to stand inside. So that's nice. But it doesn't give me an immediate sort of idea for where to take it from here. So I will just wait on presumably Gus doing something.
Absolutely. Gus stomps into the room, his head, or the metal plate at the top of him, almost scraping the ceiling. He bonks a light out of the way, which kind of swings to the side. Gus himself has his visor up right now. He is a rather ordinary-looking man, all things considered, despite his huge suit and large size. He's a big guy, short, thinning, very curly hair, kind of roughly thumb-shaped. But his arms are powerful, clearly from dragging around all that metal all day. The suit itself is also terrifying. It chugs smoke around as he does so, and you can see that the belly of it, that like big like pot belly that makes up the main body of it, it looks like painted teeth along the middle of it in like a classic up and down jagged pattern like a chain chomp. And as he marches into the room, you also notice that he not only has those arm augments, he has extra arms coming out of his, which not only have
sweet.
their own weapon augments, but also have actual graspers as well. And as he does so, the man who came in with you, the Ordwin fellow, cracks, and he says, "Gus, man, what's gotten into you? You're not gonna kill me, are you, Gus?" And Gus pauses and looks at him and says, "I really would have thought that you'd have a finer opinion of me than that, Donzer." He says, no kill. Promise, just chewing you up. I'll spit you out when I'm done, though." He says it kind of personably, and Donzer looks even more terrified than he was before as he says, "Gus, man, I can't believe that what you're saying right now. You look what you've done to the place. Taking people's stuff and Shush. None of that whinging. Go on, in you go."
One moment, please. Mr. Gus, nice to meet you. I am Hasad. I have something I think you might want to take a look at.
Do I know
Just
you?
before we... You don't, but your friend over there does,
You
and I
hear,
point
"Shut
with
up, you
one
little
thumb.
rat," from behind you.
And then I reach into my satchel and pull out a record of all my correspondences with Marcus.
Little stack of letters. And as you do
Hand
so,
it
you
over
hear,
to Gus.
"What are you?" And you hear a creak as Marcus goes in to punch you in the back of the head. Now,
Yes.
you do hear the wild groaning creak of his suit as he comes bull rushing in from behind you. What do you want to do?
I would like to attempt to dodge out of the way. I suppose, I mean, I don't have reflex or vigor, so I'm not yet particularly agile, but I guess I'll, like, I'm reaching out with, like, one hand with these things towards Gus to hand them over,
Yep.
whether to his real arm or one of the extras, it doesn't matter. But as I'm doing that, I'll just with my other hand, kind of hard to sort of demonstrate here, but like reaching out with one hand and then with the other hand, sort of swing my scythe backwards to put this oversized blade in between me and the guy trying to charge me. It's not necessarily intended to like do much, just sort of, you know, block him from getting forward. I've got a quarterstaff thing shaft as well, so it's like I can brace it against the ground or something, you know?
Sure. Unfortunately, he weighs a lot and has a lot of force behind him. You feel yourself, your scythe blade is tossed to the side as you feel yourself slammed in the back and go piling face first into the ground. The lights go swimming in front of your eyes as you are completely and totally dazed, but you hear shouting behind you for a moment. Very briefly, we're not going to do a full action, but Sloan at this point is out in the woods and would also hear the shouting from inside of the garage, as well as the like a bit of a creaking and smashing noise. However, back over to Hasad, he comes to in time to hear, "I told you to stay put." He's helped to his feet, and by that I mean literally bodily picked up by the woman who let him in, and then set on his feet, a little dazed, and certainly with his head throbbing, but nothing worse than that.
Yeah.
And Gus is looking at you. Says,
yes,
And what do you have for me there? I want to see it right now, please.
of course. I hand over the stack of letters. These are evidence. You can start reading through them, but I'll give you the abbreviation.
Sure.
That fellow over there was known to me as Marcus, a
Marcus.
pseudonym, of course. Indeed. He was looking to sell that fancy new suit you gave him. Thought it could earn him a lot of money. I figured I best track you down and let you know.
Mark, I really think you could have come up with a better pseudonym than Marcus.
You hear,
It doesn't look like it looks there. Gus, I wasn't trying to... Shush. You quiet. All right, this is useful. You said, what now?
Hasad.
Hasad, right. Good. Okay, this is helpful. I'm grateful for it.
He sets it to the side. And he says, I'll go through it in totality later.
And I actually think this is kind of an unprecedented time, isn't it?
He looks around to his 3 toadies who are in the room and said,
Well, I think we may as well start in a slightly different order than we anticipated. Mark.
You hear no response. He says,
Go stand in there for me, buddy pal.
You hear a creaking noise and then a struggling noise, and you can see the woman is bodily wrestling Mark over towards the shower stall looking thing.
Gus, I told you it doesn't look like it. Don't worry. You can tell me all about it later. You'll tell me all about it. It'll be all smoothed over. It's nothing to worry about. But I have been... You saw what I did with the plates. I had a full order. I understand. Stand in the shower stall.
He actually says shower stall. And then he says,
Good. Now don't move.
Mark is absolutely trying to move. And so Gus follows up.
I said...
And you hear a click as one of his extra arms deploys a heavy multi-barreled shotgun.
Don't move.
And as he does so, he approaches Mark in the titled shower stall and says,
All right, chewing time.
And gives a sniff. He says,
All right, Marky. I need you to lean your head forward, please.
And looking very nervous, Mark says,
And just do it, Mark.
The shotgun is cocked. And Mark bends over. And as he does so, Gus's belly opens as a set of jaws. And Mark's head is put inside. He looks over his shoulder and says quite placidly,
It looks worse than it is.
As the jaws snap shut. Mark is not decapitated. Instead, you hear a roaring noise from inside the belly. And a horrid scream. By this point, Sloan is up a tree, and he hears the eerie, wailing, desperate scream from inside the building. So too does Vadim, who, having clocked 5 minutes, is probably on his way over by now. He hears the scream from outside.
Can I tell who it sounded like?
The voice is relatively deep. It's probably
That
too
was-
loud to be Hasad.
Yeah, checks out.
And he opens the mouth, takes a couple steps backward, and you can see that Mark is still alive, and he sits bolt upright, panting. But his skin has been flayed, red and raw. And you can see that where he had a very human head with the suit bolted onto it, he now has a series of heavy plates that go up his neck to the back of his head, and a few bolts that crisscross all the way through his neck, connecting him permanently into the suit. As he opens his eyes, you can see that where there were eyeballs, there are now just 2 lit flames. And as he opens his mouth, you hear a creaking as his motor starts back up. The other 2 members in the room, his toadies, Gus's toadies, stand there in absolute abject horror. And Gus says, "Won't disobey now, will he?"
It would seem unlikely.
Mm-hmm. He sniffs.
I also would just like to mention, while he was doing all that stuff, I didn't want to interrupt you at the time, but
Sure.
I definitely retrieved my scythe.
Yes.
Assuming I dropped it when I fell.
Absolutely done.
Yeah.
Do you want to do any other actions? Because that whole sequence takes at least, 45 seconds or something.
Okay, cool. Okay, based on what was happening during that, I would have positioned myself to stand close enough to attack one of them, but realistically, now that the sequence is over, it's kind of irrelevant, because it looks like they're pretty terrified anyway.
Yeah. And as you have done so, let's jump back out to Sloan and Vadim. Sloan, you have taken your position in a treetop that overlooks the entirety of Gus's compound and has a full view of his courtyard. You can see Vadim approaching the courtyard. There is only one of Gus's augmented minions outside. This is the one who is sleeping while sitting in thin air. The scream has woken it up, and he's like whipping his head around wildly before getting to his feet and pretending like he hadn't been sleeping. Any other actions that Sloan would like to take from his current watching position? I should note, by the way, that you can see the back of the garage that all this is happening in. There is a window here, but it is completely fogged by smoke. And so it's very hard to make anything out inside except for the flickering of deep red fire.
No, at this point, no. If I remember correctly from the book, if I sight in or if I concentrate with the Sharp's rifle, that gives me a benefit the longer that I focus. Correct.
It'll zoom in your vision over time.
What I want to do then is I saw him. I saw it being taken into a particular doorway. Correct.
Yep.
So I'm assuming, can I see that doorway?
You cannot see the doorway from this side of the building, but you can see right up to it.
Okay, that's what I need. The reason I'm asking is that I want to be able to start my focus so that anybody who comes out through that door is going to be an easier target for me to take down quickly.
Yep.
Or to try to take down quickly than if I was just scanning back and forth and hoping for an opportunity target. I want to be really focused on that door.
Yep.
That's where I am right now. But future action is going to depend on what Vadim does.
Totally. While you're focusing in, your ears will still be able to follow Vadim at the very least, even if your eyes are locked on the outside of the doorway.
All right.
And Vadim, as you're approaching the compound, you hear the awful wailing. You see the one last toady getting quickly to his feet and looking around, and then his eyes fall on you as you are approaching the palisade wall. You're very close at this point.
Yeah. Can I change just one thing as I was on my way back?
Yep.
Can I have just asked Big Larry where Aldeniner is direction-wise?
Yes. He indicates to you, he points to the path, and when, assuming that you say no, like cardinal direction, I'm guessing is what you're looking for, he would say south.
It's south. Okay. This is fine. So I will approach yonder. A part of me was really considering if he was still asleep, that just shooting him.
Yeah.
Just his face was there. Oh well.
Now,
but I will approach and just sort of hold the hand.
So he clacks down his visor and says in a very different accent from any of the ones that you've heard in this area so far, "Hey, what do you think you're doing? This is private property, you understand?"
You must forgive me. I'm an emissary.
And what? What?
I come from Aldeniner. I'm here to make to speak about an issue that we might have with an upcoming shipment.
You don't sound like no one from Aldeniner I've ever seen before.
I'm aware that my family moved there about 2 years back, and we have not yet had the time to change our tongues.
Yeah. Tell me your family history another day, pal.
What do you want?
Exactly what I said. I need to speak with Gus. I believe is
Gus
your
is
foreman.
busy.
Yeah?
He's come up right to the edge of the palisade and crossed his arms.
Oh, could you deliver a message for me then?
He looks over his shoulder, and then looks back to you, and he says, "No, I can't do that. Nope, too busy."
I sort of just like put my hands on my I put my hands on my hips, just sort of like fists looking at him confused. I'm like, this is going to put him back a great deal. I don't think he'll like not hearing this, you know.
Well, yeah.
But hey, if you want that on your head, that's fine.
No.
It's all right.
Tell me about the shipment. What is going to be late?
Well, we have some more metal stores that is coming up. We know that you are a little short stocked here, so we are able to accrue some more. Some redundancies were removed. However, I'm sort of gonna look out at the weather, just sort of like move to the sky.
Yeah.
We think that we might be getting some bad weather, and it might be difficult to cart it up. We know that I sort of mime to his armor. You're well equipped to do all sorts of things, and I'm gonna point back to the people, and have apparently great labor. Would you be? It might be good to clear out some of the pathways heading down, and so Aldeniner is south of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be good to clear out some of the main ways heading south. We're expecting down trees. And it just might be hard to bring a lot up, but some of our machinery has been breaking down.
Okay, so I need to go tell him that?
Yes, that would be good.
Okay. Right. Let me... he looks over his shoulder and shuffles nervously. Maybe I should wait just a little bit. Is that all you have to say? You're dismissed unless you have more news to share, mister.
Well, other than that, I mean, we've been hearing strange talk about things happening. We've apparently some of your your fellow citizenry actually went down to Aldeniner and said something crazy is going on. Doesn't look too crazy to me.
No, nothing crazy, of course, he says.
How does that work? It's coal powered, yeah. Where's the chute?
It's back here. He turns around and shows you he does have a coal chute.
Oh, really? It's cool. I myself manufactured a large locomotive. The practice didn't go out so well, so.
Yeah. It's yep.
You know, it would probably be a lot more efficient if you ran it off a steam boiler. I'm just trying to like butter this guy up. He seems stupid.
Yeah, and he says, "Well, it's Gus's decision. You know, he made it, and if he's gonna use a steam boiler, then he probably has a good reason. You know, he's a smart guy."
Well, maybe that's another thing to say. Maybe I should talk to him about that. I would love to assist in the design. Could you go let him know that I'm here?
Oh, you wait here, mister.
I give a very phony, like, yes, sirree, Bob, good Marshal, sir, salute.
And he hesitantly goes over towards the door. And
when he turns around,
yep.
Do I have a good vantage spot on any of his weak spots? Advantage on any of his weak spots?
Back of his head is wide open. And you're less than 5 paces.
At the moment he just, because he's got heavy stuff, so he's gonna be quiet. He won't be able to hear a draw from a slick holster. I aim, steady, fire.
Do you have a plus to skill?
I don't, but I do have a plus to sensory.
Do you have a plus to sensory? Okay. Are you shooting multiple times? You do have a revolver. You can shoot and see what happens, but obviously in these sort of instances, it can be a matter of milliseconds.
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do 3 shots, and I'm gonna step forward with each. and I'm going to use my arm to to create like a really solid brace using my resilience to just to like really resist against the recoil.
Yep.
I want him down.
And as
We gotta start thinning their numbers.
Sloan would hear the shot from his position focusing in on the doorway. And then 1, 2, 3. And to your perspective, Vadim, the first one gets him in like the top part of the pate. The second one goes clear in the back of his head, and the third one brings him down. Now, his head bows forwards, and his suit still takes like a couple of like steps forward as he's going before it kind of tips and falls.
Yep. So I'm gonna look back to everybody, and I just say, "All right, that's one down. Get your shit together."
And as you do so, you hear the engine of the hauler as it starts to careen towards the still closed entranceway of the palisade.
Yep. And I'm going to call out, and I'm just like, "Ready the smokes!
And as
Smoke
you do
out
so,
the courtyard. I don't want them to see you."
As you do so, the other people of Cromney Park, or at least many of them, especially the two families you've interacted with, are inching closer, hesitant, scared, keeping behind trees or other pieces of garbage.
So let me just, what are all the names that we've heard of the families are?
You know,
Pubbage?
you know
Pubbage?
you know the Pabbage family, you know the
Pabbage.
Easterweld family, and you know the Ordwin
Pabbage,
family.
Easterweld, Ordwin. And did I not get the last name for...
There are two other families or two other households, and you haven't heard their names.
I thought I heard... Yeah, okay. So I'm going to say... So I will definitely call out and just say, Pabbage, Easterwelds, and Ordwins. It's time for you to stop living in fear. And let me tell you, I'm scared shitless, but it'll be a good fight. And I'm going to start walking. I'm gonna make way so that this thing that's careening forward doesn't kill me.
Now, Sloan, other actions from you. You have heard the shots, you have heard the speech, and you have heard the rev of the engine. Do you have any other actions you'd like to take, or are you still zoomed in right on that entrance?
Still focused on anybody who ends up coming out that door. That's what I've got to. I'm waiting for my shot. Put it that way.
Absolutely. Hasad, back inside. Now, actions you would like to take after Mark got chewed.
Okay, so not after the shot. This hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, that hasn't happened yet.
Okay. In that case, I'll just stay silent for a moment. I want to see. I'll look between the different people that are around, see how other people are reacting. I kind of suspect that what's his name? Ordwell, was it?
The Ordwin fellow. His first name is
Ordwin.
Donzer, from what you heard.
Yeah. That guy, I suspect he's maybe gonna break down in tears or something, which hopefully will stall for time. But we shall see.
As you look over to him, you actually see that his hand is creeping up behind him, and he is actually grabbing a drill from the table behind him.
Nice. I am in that case. I continue to stand where I am and just sort of focus on not exactly like melding into the background, but just if a fight was to break out, I would be the last person to be targeted. I'm irrelevant.
Now, Gus at
is
this
the
point
vibe I'm
looks
trying to
up
give off.
to the Ordwin fellow, and his hand freezes on its way going back, and Gus says, "See, Donzer, not dead." He goes over and gives Mark a tap on the shoulder. Says, "Not dead at all, but new and improved model, you might call it." And Donzer just kind of stares back at him. Gus narrows his eyes and says, "Come on up." The drill now clenched in his hand and tucked slightly behind his back, Donzer starts to edge his way up through the room. And as he's doing so, Gus says, "Go on, don't drag yourself." But as he does so, the shot rings out outside. Then another, a third. And this jerks the other two of Gus's guards out of their sudden shocked stupor. And Gus frowns and says, don't like that. He looks around for a moment and then says, Leanne, go check it out. And the woman quickly starts to move towards the door, putting her visor down. You can see she also revs up her flamethrower.
I just continue watching. Actually, since she's going though, as I'm watching, can I sort of sidle closer innocuously to the other man?
Yep.
Not Gus, but the other henchman.
Yep.
Yeah.
The other henchman
That's all for
is easily sidleable. He's not focusing on you at all. But as Donzer is getting closer, Gus says to him, "You know what to do. Go step in the shower stall right now." And as he does so, the man makes a sudden lunge for Gus's face with the drill. As you might expect, this does not work at all. Gus's augmented hand slams him across the upside of the head, moving rather fast for being such a heavy piece of machinery, throwing the drill across the room and knocking Donzer across a table.
Ooh.
Donzer is now bleeding from the face with a tooth missing. And he clutches his face and stares up as Gus doesn't look offended or perturbed. Just says, "You don't want to do that. And I'll tell you, if you make me kill you, I'm going to have to grab another of your clan, you know." There's a long silence. All right, we're going to start
During
counting.
this... Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, he just said we're going to start counting. You have a thing?
Okay. I just wanted to see, like, during this whole encounter, have I been able to see whether Gus's suit has the same weaknesses as the others at the back,
You have
or
not
is it
seen
also
the back
plated?
of Gus's suit.
Not even while he was doing the shower cubicle thing, and I was standing behind him watching him eat the dude's face.
You were not perfectly behind him.
Okay.
You were kind of side to him. At the very least,
Fair enough.
you didn't see anything bulky, but there might be.
Okay. Yeah. That's all for now then. Thanks.
Certainly. Now, Vadim, from your position, the vehicle goes
All right,
smashing
so-
through the palisade gate.
Yeah, I would like to add one thing.
Yep.
Which is that what I'd like to be prepping so that as I've stepped aside, as this thing crashes through, I want to run in behind it.
Absolutely. And as you go
Just like
sprinting
I'm
behind-
using that plus to vigor, just like buckling my body down, getting low, stowing the revolver. It's fucking gone.
Yep.
And just and I want to try and go like off to the right.
Yep.
Actually no. So if the door, where's the I guess I'll find out, won't I?
Here, I'll give you a quick map. If the
yeah.
gate is right here, and the compound kind of goes like this wise, right? So kind of think of it like a football shape. If the gate is on this
Here.
part of the football, the door they went in is also on the same point of the football shape, you know, but on the opposite side of it, if that makes sense.
Did
So
I
it's
see
like a
what
closer point.
angle they? Did I see what angle they kind of went in? Like, did they go in, like, if this is a door, did they go in, like, straight on? Did they go in and then, like, pass to the left?
Largely
pass to the right?
straight on, yes.
All right, in that case, I would like to be I would like to rush in and then try and get myself on the opposite side of the door, opposite the tractor that just went in.
Yep. Well, as you're
Because
rushing
then
in
the
and-
person's going to turn.
Yeah. As you're rushing in, you are part of the way getting to the side when the door blasts open and you can see the woman standing there in her heavy augmented kit. Her visor is down. There's a revving flamethrower in her hand with like a heavy like piston pump primed and ready to launch burning napalm or whatever the fuck. And as she looks out, you hear her say from under her visor, "What the shit? Packages!" And as she starts to rush out into the courtyard, Sloan, you saw the door burst open, and you see her start to rush out.
Okay, I'm wondering from my experience, and again, I don't have experience, but there's got to be a propellant for this flamethrower.
Yeah.
Some sort of a tank. There's got to be some holder for whatever it is this flamethrower is using for fuel. Do I have the wherewithal to understand what that thing might be or recognize it as such based on what I've seen from the other suits that would not have a particular thing like this? In other words,
that's
this
an
is
excellent way
something-
of putting it.
this is something that, it's something different. And I'm hoping that I can put two and two together and say that thing has got to be creating the fire that's coming out of her flamethrower, or the propellant that is creating the fire in her flamethrower. Real quickly, does that dawn on me?
Well, let's ask a quick follow-up question. From where Sloan hails from, if you could give me an example of like a device he has seen that is at least vaguely comparable to a flamethrower or a train or one of these piston-driven devices he has seen, what would that be?
Not a piston-driven device. The thing that I think he may have seen at some point is probably a welder.
Yeah.
So something that would have had, a settle-in welder, say.
Yeah.
He would have seen that when he was back in his days at the circus, when they were making repairs on things, when they were trying to keep the wagons and whatever else that they had going.
Yep.
He would have understood mechanically that there had to have been some sort of a gas or something that would have created the flame that you would have used to fix things like via welding. That's where I would be coming from, as in that flame's got to have a source. I wonder if it's that tank or whatever that's on the back of her suit.
I see. Well, there is a tube coming off of the flamethrower. And if he's seen a welder before, he would be familiar with something along those lines. And that connects back to, where like I've described their suits as having like a big pot belly?
Yep.
On the back part of the pot belly at the top of it, pretty much right underneath her right shoulder blade, you do see something of that nature. In this case, a rounded, for want of a better term, like a pustule of metal. That
I'm shooting it.
Sure. An easy shot, especially given you've zoomed in so long and have been so patiently waiting. And as your shot hits, there is a sudden and rather explosive Vadim sees the woman knocked flat on her front by a sudden burst behind her. The air hangs hazy, but with like heat, just like sheer utter heat as the explosion happens and knocks her forwards. Her flamethrower sputters a little bit and lights a couple of small fires on the stringy crabgrass out in the courtyard of the compound. However, after being slammed to the ground, she doesn't immediately move thereafter. Vadim, do you have an immediate follow-up action?
Yeah, so am I running... I was trying to be on the other side of the door from...
Yep. You hadn't quite got there
the
yet.
vehicle. So that means I'm running towards where she is.
Roughly, yeah.
I would like to... All right. I'm going to try and internalize that explosion for a second. And, remember cannonade, remember covering fire, remember, flak. And try and, press myself to get there as fast as I can. And draw my blade. Because her ears have to be ringing.
Yeah. As you sprint over, briefly, actually, Sloan, immediate follow-ups after shooting. Do you have other shots that you want to take? Are you just going to reload and keep focusing on the door, or do you want to move? What do you want to do?
Right now, I'm just reloading and going back into tracking mode. But I need to keep track of Vadim, because I don't want to get, if I do another explosion or something similar, I don't want him to be collateral damage. So
Absolutely.
Right now, reload, wait for the next target.
And now he's come back. He's come into your field of vision more properly, so you have a much easier time of tracking him, whereas before you were just doing it by ear.
Right.
Now, at this point, Hasad back inside. This interaction has just taken place, and you hear the explosion from outside. This is the first thing that has really made Gus's head turn. Do you have an immediate follow-up that you'd like to take?
Well, quick question. The furnace thing in the belly part of his suit, is it still open at all? Is there any gap in it?
The
or
mouth
is, it
is
completely
ever so
closed off?
slightly open, just so the teeth are slightly interlaced.
Okay. Can I see, obviously there's various tools and such around this place. Because the guy was able to pick up a drill. Can I see a wrench nearby?
Yes. Easily accessible.
Okay, cool. While everyone's ignoring me, I pick up a wrench, which is not a weapon and therefore does not make them particularly likely to think of me as a threat. And I will use By the Wayside on it. And as I'm focusing on this By the Wayside, I'm looking down at the wrench in my hand, and I'm thinking, pondering in my mind, that the purpose of a wrench is like to tighten up nuts and bolts and things, right? So if a wrench was, intact, that would be what it would do. Therefore, the power I wish to give it that is connected to what a wrench does, thematically, is that if it is no longer intact, it does the opposite. So if this wrench becomes damaged or broken, any nearby nuts and bolts will unscrew themselves.
Oh, shit. I will say yes, one use property.
Very, very fine. That doesn't really need to be more than one use, hopefully. So, yeah, at the moment, how close am I to Gus?
Right now, you are probably the furthest person in the room from Gus, and it's a reasonably sized room with a lot of shit in the way, but you are still within like an underhand toss easily of him. So not far away in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. Based on the fact that it is a very small gap, even though I do have +1 skill, I'm not going to try and throw it at him.
Not going to push
just
that
yet,
luck
at least.
stat yet?
Not quite yet, no. Although thank you for reminding me that I do have 2 pluses to that. So yeah, I'll hesitate a moment after doing that. I want to see how he and his last henchman react to what's going on outside.
Yep. And Gus, after whipping sideways, yells,
Thurman, we got trouble.
and the other one that you were next to immediately starts to rush towards the outside. As he does so, Gus looks back towards Donzer and says,
You stay right here, or you know what's going to happen.
as he turns and starts to move towards the door leading out as well.
Okay, I'll follow. I'll just follow in his wake. As I'm doing that, I'll sort of get slightly closer to Gus.
As
Just
you are
following along
hurrying,
behind him.
As you are hurrying in, Donzer catches you by the shoulder and says in a slightly quavering voice through his clearly broken jaw,
He said, wait.
Okay, yeah, I just smile at him, trying to look reassuring, and just say, Don't worry, we'll handle this. You'll be safe. As will your family.
now,
And then I pull away.
Vadim, you've reached the woman on the ground. As you get close, you see that she's starting to slowly and weakly stir. Oh, you're muted. You're muted. Lay, you're muted.
God damn it.
There we go.
Sorry, I don't want people to hear ambient noise. So she has a neck, right?
She does.
Hear me out. What if she didn't? I just a thought. She's down. I get on, stab.
Yep. As you slam in, you hear from over your shoulder Big Larry's loud booming voice.
You still want smoke?
The moment I stab, by the way, I'm stab and drag cutting and running the left of the door.
Yeah.
And just gonna shout very loudly, yes!
And as you are running to the side of the doorway, a jet of flamethrower fuel comes launching out of the opening, missing where you were and landing amidst the crabgrass.
Perfect.
Now, since you are now strafing the entrance to the door, are you just trying to get behind cover, or are you just going to go to like the position where you're hugging the wall, forcing them to come all the way out to shoot at you again? Or something else?
Is there any verticality to this compound? There's a ton of shit, right? I'd like to climb some shit.
Oh, yeah. Tons of shit. And also the buildings are often
because there's
two
about to be
stories.
a ton of noise and smoke that's going to draw attention.
Oh, there's more noise too. There's the horrible grinding noise of the hauler vehicle, which is still going forwards and is grinding into the wall of one of the buildings of the compound.
Good. I would like to I would like to use I'd like to try and climb some stuff.
Sure.
Using sort of taking my sword and definitely sort of like either like sort of like half sorting it, or even using my crossguard to wrench up
What
a little
sort
on
of
stuff.
height of thing are you looking for? Like your height, or are you trying to get up onto a roof or somewhere in between, or what?
I'm just trying to get a little bit up because they're not going to be looking up.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay, in that case,
They're expecting to be dealing with people. I would like to be not at the height of people.
there are a couple of covered shipping pallets that you can get on top of that would get you just above your height off the ground.
That's fine.
Yep.
And definitely sort of taking quick breaths, pumping my adrenaline, moving my body.
And as you are climbing up onto a shipping pallet, the first smoke bombs start to come in. Coal smoke starts to filter out. Sloan would also see the coal smoke thrown in from beyond, but he would also, as would Vadim, hear the booming voice, not of Gus, but the other, the last of Gus's henchmen thus far, who would shout out, "Hey, back off, or it's toast for you!" And you can see the fire of his flamethrower as he starts to push his way out of the doorway. But unlike the last one who you shot in the tank, he is coming out at a slight angle such that his visor is partially protecting the back of his head.
So, sorry. Are we to me or
Yes,
where are
over
we?
to you.
So his visor he's got his head turned so the visor's covering the back.
Yep.
Does that expose any portion of his neck?
The
is
visor
that gonna be
hangs
off?
quite low. And as such, you don't get a great look at his neck. You see maybe 10% of the back of his head at like a side angle, but even if you took the shot now, it might just be a glance.
Are the back of his knees more visible to me? Would that be a better shot?
His head has only just been exposed since you're kind of looking at him over the curve of a roof, so he'd have to come out further for you to be able to see his legs.
What about his lower back?
Lower back, similar thing to knees, though you would see that sooner.
I'm gonna wait then. I've got to wait for the next shot.
And as you do so, you see that rather than looking towards the people throwing in, he is scanning the trees. He clearly saw where that last shot came in from.
Then I'm just gonna have to shoot at whatever is the most opportune target on the guy.
Sure.
Whatever that might be.
In that case, you're pretty much choosing between like that little sliver of head and the arm with the flamethrower, because there is a weakness at the elbow joint.
Elbow joint, the bigger target.
Yep.
That's what I'm going for.
This is since he's turning relatively slowly and he doesn't have great mobility in the elbow joint, this hits it quite neatly. His flamethrower arm drops down and he yells, "Yeah!" He ducks down low such that you can no longer see his head, and you hear him scream, "Gus! Gus! They got me!" Vadim, you have a thing. You've climbed at this point.
Can I see this?
Yes, easily. This is just across the yard of the compound from you. It's fully in view.
I would like to take a page out of the gunslinger's book. I saw what he shot.
Indeed.
I would like to shoot it from a slightly different angle.
Excellent.
Well, actually, I would like to wait. I would like to wait for Gus to come out. But I'm going to draw, sort of like hugging whatever I'm gripping on. Maybe it's probably one of the vehicles that's like pinned up against. You said that they were sort of like all over the place. Some of them were sort of fortifying the interior.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like I'm sort of slotted holding maybe like the outer carriage of like a tractory looking thing.
Sure, you would have. You said you were climbing. You were okay climbing onto that like a shipping pallet first. So from there you could climb onto a tractor of some kind.
Yeah, but yeah. So and I'm gonna aim at that, and I'm gonna wait.
And it's at this point that Gus comes bursting out of the door, or not really bursting, slower than bursting, but in so doing, he actually knocks out a piece of the door jamb because of his sheer size, and says, "Don't worry, Thurman, I got you, buddy."
How close is he?
Gus is, again, not terribly far from you. He's at a point where your shots are far from guaranteed, unlike those first ones, but call it,
let me
call it
rephrase.
25, 30 paces. A little further.
Let me rephrase. How close is he to Thurman?
He
Specifically,
is-
Thurman's now dropped now the flamethrower arm.
the flamethrower arm, I mean, it's still on him, right? It didn't get severed, but
But
he is maybe 3 paces away from Thurman.
one more. And are these big robot paces,
Big
or are these
robot
like
paces,
paces?
yes.
At 1 pace, I'm shooting the flamethrower. At the same, trying to hit the, and I'm aware of how these work. These are something that is not as alien to me.
And Sloan, you would also see, finally, Gus's huge head emerge from outside. And I say huge because, unlike the others, the back of his head and neck is armored. His suit is substantially bigger and more built up, and he also has those 2 extra arms that reach out over the tops of his shoulders. Not to mention his visor is much heavier. You hear his booming voice reassure Thurman as he comes out. Immediately, one of his 2 extra arms turns backwards towards the forest, and you can see its flamethrower start to prime. One of his normal arms points out towards the small, scattered, skittish crowd of other members of Cromney Park, and begins to cock the multi-barreled shotgun on it. The other 2 arms are not yet moving into action. What does Sloan want to do?
So it looks like it's inevitable that he's going to take a shot at the townspeople.
Yeah, it seems, or at least he's threatening it.
Okay, can I recognize some sort of a fuel cell for his flamethrower as well?
If there is one, it's much better hidden. You don't see an obvious line, partially because his armor is so much more built up, it could probably be hidden inside of it.
All right, then what I'm going to end up doing is this whole bullying concept is something that does not sit well with Sloan. It's all tied into his concept of right and wrong and justice. I can't let these local people take a shotgun blast, so I'm going to shoot at the shotgun.
Yep.
That he's aiming with his one appendage.
Where on the shotgun? Are you shooting on the barrel side or more towards the firing mechanism side, or what?
Now, so this is not just an extension of the arm. This is something he's actually holding.
Oh, excellent question. It is actually built into the suit part of the arm. His hand is free, and you can think of it almost like a Spider-Man, not Spider-Man, but like, the wrist crossbow, like that, but a shotgun.
Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up shooting at his hand as opposed to the shotgun.
Yep.
I want him to feel some pain with this, and I want to disable the hand.
Taking this shot, his hand isn't moving very much, and so you easily hit it. In fact, you take off a whole finger. Gus gives a, shit. But as he does so, the hand with the flamethrower launches a jet of fuel in your direction. It's not going to hit you, but it is going to light the trees.
It's time for me to vacate this spot anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm dropping down out of the trees. I've got to find another vantage point that I can continue this shooting.
As Sloan is descending, back over to Vadim before we go to Hasad.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing to that, which would be, if a shot comes from behind me, I'm just firing.
Yep. A shot...
Because sort of like, I don't, this is very much just like, not like reflex, the stat reflex, but, when under fire and you hear, and that your allies are shooting, you just shoot.
Yep.
So I'm going to try and pop that other flamethrower on, Thornton or whatever his name was.
You hear the
Thurman?
shot. Thurman. Yeah, you hear the shot, and then you hear Gus's cry. But as you said, it's an instinct at this point for you to fire.
Yeah.
And as you shoot, your revolver is not nearly as accurate, and as such, this first shot goes wild of the flamethrower. Do you want to take an immediate follow-up?
Yeah, I'm firing again. I'll pull the last 3. Just
Yep.
like.
And the third
I want it
shot,
out.
The third shot hits the flamethrower, and you hear an audible, like a hiss come off of it as pressurized gas starts to escape wildly. Now, as you take these quick 3 shots, Hasad, over to you. Gus has pushed out of the door. You hear the shot. You hear his grunt of pain. You also hear other shots going off in the compound. What would you like to do from here?
Okay, so quick question. Has the shot Vadim has has shot the tank. Is that a thing that happened already, or are we back in time again?
That's
or
happening
something?
roughly at the same time, or
Okay.
like milliseconds after the shot from Sloan, because again, Vadim was operating off of instinct to shoot.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, the gas is leaking out of the tank right now.
Yep.
And it's hissing, but it's not on fire.
Yep.
Okay. Well, let's hope it doesn't catch fire anytime soon, because I step up beside Gus, who as I said, I was following him. I was trying to get closer to him.
Yep.
And I just want to slip the thing through the gap in his armor.
The wrench.
Not even trying to throw it, just shove it in.
I can just stick it in there. And as you do so, Gus, who's just had a finger taken off, is doing a couple of things at once. He has the one flamethrower arm shooting behind. He has the shotgun arm that was aiming, but now is a little low because he's had a finger taken off, though he's not screaming in agony, which is maybe a little weird. However, the other two arms of his are doing things. One of those arms, the one that's in his actual hand, was reaching down towards Thurman, but after getting shot in the hand, he recoils backwards and actually it takes a step back towards you, and that's the point at which you could stick the thing into his
Nice.
arm. However, immediately after taking this step back towards you, Gus tosses the shotgun from the now fingerless hand over to the other hand and begins to point it back out towards the crowd. You do not know, you do not have the wherewithal to see what the last hand is doing. He's literally right next to you, and his girth is blocking out a lot of his actions. So does Hasad have any other actions he would like to take?
At this stage, I can hear the gas going off at the moment, so I'll just back off a bit so that, is it possible for me to put his bulk between me and the potential explosion?
Yes, absolutely. You wouldn't be able to step inside to do so. You'd have to step to your right.
Okay. I'll do that. I technically still haven't attacked him, so I'm counting on him to not bother wasting his ammo on me.
Indeed. And Vadim, having shot the flamethrower fuel tank to the point where it's now hissing, what do you want to do?
Seeing that it has not yet burst, I'm just going to sort of fuck. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to press the sort of side switch on the revolver that that's the way I eject my shell, eject the casings, and I'm going to pop, and as I do, sort of, and I'm going to do two things. I would like to manifest. I would like to, as I do this, sort of use a little bit of my breath and the sort of peak of this moment as I crack these 3 rapid fire shots, bang, 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 and try and kindle just a little bit of like a single metal spark. And I want that. I want it to just blow down and catch that gas.
That is a good 0 arcane manifestation. I love it.
And I was going to add a little bit of a luck pitch for it to just sort of like, for just a moment, like flitter out in the wind and then get pulled back in.
That's even better. I like that even more. And as it flitters out, just before it touches, you hear the shotgun start to fire from Gus. And you hear screams as the people of Cromney Park start to scatter, having thrown a couple of the smoke bombs and a couple of Molotovs, but really, for the most part, they're completely bolting.
Yep, this is fun.
Now, as it catches, there's a burst. Similar to that first one that Sloan managed to pop off. The burst is contained, but intensely hot. And since, in this case, Thurman is down when it happens, Thurman is knocked wildly sideways, even with his heavy armor, and crashes into the wall of the compound. Hasad, you, standing safely behind Gus, actually barely feel any of this, besides your ankles getting a little warm, right? But you feel Gus stagger ever so slightly as he turns his attention and his shotgun. You hear a scream from Thurman, "Gus, help me, man!" Now, before we go further, Sloan, you've skinnied down the tree. However, you now have a flamethrower fire, not immediately on top of you, but like quickly spreading through the pine needles. What would you like to do from this point? Are you just going to be trying to circle around, or like what direction are you going? What do you want to try to do?
So when I came down out of the tree, how far am I from the palisade?
From the palisade or from his compound? Because his compound is actually very close. You got in a tree right behind it, but to get into the palisade at the entrance from where everyone else was going in from, that would take you, you know, even if you were to sprint, like just under a minute.
Don't want to take that much time. Is there a way that I could vault over the palisade, but far enough away from Gus to have some time to get myself set up? I'm not using the rifle anymore because things are happening too fast.
Yep.
In fact, I'll carry the rifle with me until I can't carry it anymore, and I'll leave it someplace. It's going to be pistol work from now on.
Yep.
But can I vault or get over the palisade relatively quickly, or is it too high?
You said you had triple skill, right? Sure. So let me describe this thing to you real quick. It's like a ramshackle kind of wood and metal crud sort of wall with barbed wire at the top. Give me, like, briefly describe the sort of vault that might get you over this. The height of the thing would come up about to your, like, brow, with the barbed wire being another foot or two beyond that overhead. And the barbed wire has, like, decent-sized gaps between the two coils.
Okay, so then what I would probably want to do is do a leap up with, I've got my pistol in my pocket. I would want to reach up and grab onto the top of the palisade and just pull myself up and try and shimmy through between the top of the palisade and the barbed wire, if that's something I can do, if there's enough space to do that.
Absolutely. I am A-okay with this happening. Pull, then slink up and through. It's a smooth, quick action, but with a +2 to reflex and 3 to skill, that's the sort of thing that you're going to be equipped to do. And pulling through, now head first, I think even like a smooth flip could get you out of this.
Exactly. That's what I'm hoping to do. It's basically I'm almost launching myself through that gap and then coming down into a roll so that I can hit the ground and then be up on my feet and moving.
Easily done. And this puts you right behind one of the hauler machines that they had stolen from the other people, and which, I mean, gives you a small amount of cover, but through some of the gaps in it, you can see hints of the fire that is starting to take hold in the courtyard of Gus's compound. At this point, there's literally, between you and Gus, there is this one hauler vehicle, and you can get around it within a couple of paces. What would you like to do?
I want to try and get around it, but I want to position myself to use trick shot. I'd really like to be able to ricochet something off to be able to get to a spot that's less open to me than it is straight on.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for, is a position to where I can hit one of his weaker spots through a trick shot, because I don't really want to expose myself all the way to all of his armaments.
Absolutely. Now, again, you've only seen pieces of Gus's armaments, but he does not have super obvious weak spots, just from what you have, not to the same degree as his henchmen. However, you have a lot of good trick shot surfaces. Not only do you have the faces of all the buildings of the compound that you bounce off of walls and things like that, easily done, but you even have bits of scrap on the ground, like metal plates and things that you could bounce off of. So in terms of trick shot angles, you could probably hit almost anywhere on his body with like 3 seconds of positioning. It's a matter of where do you want to try to hit.
What I would really like to try and do is hit, I'm assuming that these are you said that they were almost welding face masks.
Yeah.
I'd really like to put a bullet or 2 or 3 into the glass of his face mask. If I can somehow try and blind him, or at least make it less easy for him to see what's going on, that's what I want to go for. If there's no other obvious target to get to his person, I want to try and blind him.
In that case.
Or force him to, if it's bad enough, perhaps he'll have to lift up his mask in order to see what's going on, which will allow other people to have better shots at him.
Absolutely. In that case, from your angle, like peeking between some of like the slightly open parts of the hauler machine, you can see that his face's angle to you is about this. So you can see like the edge of that visor face mask, but you would have to do a pretty dramatic trick shot angle to hit it. In terms of what you could bounce it off of, if you wanted to do a closer angle, you could bounce it off of one of the parts of his trailer compound. If you want to do a further angle, you could bounce it off of like the pallet of scrap or something that Vadim climbed up a little earlier.
I'd want to try and get, again, I'm looking for a shot that I can get almost as directly into the front of that mask as I can. I don't really want to hit from the side. So whatever I can. And also I'd want to have the closest of a ricochet as well. I don't want to have of course, now with the trick shot, I don't lose velocity on that, do I?
No, you do not.
then I won't worry about it. Yeah, I'm just looking for whatever I can bounce off to try and hit straight on.
Are you taking that
in
shot the second you see it?
I'd actually like to take 3 shots the second I see them.
Ooh, all off of the same trick shot?
Yeah, bam,
That's
bam,
pretty
bam.
cool. Now, what is going to be your paired action for this? Especially since trick shot normally only augments 1 shot at a time. Give me a little bit of an expanded paired action to like justify it affecting multiple shots.
Paired action. You're going to have to explain that to me.
Oh, sure. On the class sheet, each ability has a paired action, which is the way you kind of initiate the magic working. Like you've seen with Reece using like By the Wayside off of Hasad. Got the wrench, considered the wrench. That's the paired action. Or with his fork in the road. He pondered like a potential route to go and made a guess as to what would happen down that route. That's the paired action. And so Trickshot's typical paired action is a flourish made before shooting. But since you're doing something a little different from usual, give me some more details on that flourish and maybe add something to it.
Well, one of the things that I'm also hoping to do out of this is I guess I'm not going to try and keep myself hidden. I've got to give Vadim an opening to do some things. I'm not going to do this I'll take that back if you'll let me. I'm not going to do this as soon as I get to see it. What I'm going to be doing is with my 3+ skill, I'm going to be trying to do a leap out into more open space. I'm looking for a flourish here. I'm looking for a little bit of a just almost an over the top type of attempt on making these shots. So really it's just going to be 3 shots, making myself fully exposed, drawing all the attention to myself, and trying to pull off one of the trick shots that I used to do as a kid in the circus.
And describe to me elements of your flourish. What are you doing with the gun? What are you doing with your body? Are you flaring your coat? Are you saying something? Give me some more of those details. If you need a moment to think, we can do that.
No, that's fine. I'll make it up as I go. I want to see how this plays out. I'm gonna run out and charge from the edge of the vehicle that I'm behind.
Yeah.
I'm gonna dive out. Actually, that's gonna make it even more interesting. And as I do that, I'm gonna yell out, "Over here, you stupid son of a bitch!" And then hopefully will you allow me to even not do the trick shot if I can get him to look at me first, or is that too complicated of a series of actions?
Oh no, if you can get him to look at you, but in this case, getting people to look at you is tied to the vitality stat, and since you have 0 pluses to it, it would take quite a lot. But still, the saying it is very, very good, and I'll give you a follow-up to describe what he is doing once we've caught the other 2 up in time, and then you can decide whether you want to do the trick shot or proceed with a straight down the barrel thing. Does that sound okay?
All right. No, that works fine. So yeah, I'll dive out and yell, "Over here, you stupid son of a bitch." And then hopefully, I'm just hoping that, again, 0 on the vitality, but I want to be the center of attention to what's going on here to open up opportunities for other people. As I'm going through the air, I'm imagining almost a slow motion scene out of a Western. I'm shooting those 3 shots directly at his face. Once I hit the ground, I'm going to roll, get up, and keep moving. Hopefully continue to draw his attention, giving other people some opportunities.
Beautiful. So the flourish is almost a midair dolphin dive as you're taking the shots. Lovely. Yep. Now, briefly catching the other 2 up, it's only a matter of seconds, so we shan't have to do too long. First of all, Vadim, after you've lit up the flamethrower, there's the explosion, there's the scream from Thurman, and Gus turns his shotgun in your direction as his eyes find you. Now, I should say his eyes, his visor, as his head locks in towards you with his shotgun aiming. You hear a groan from his armor, and from Hasad's perspective, because we're going to kind of do both of you at once, you can see the jaws of his suit grinding down on the wrench, trying to snap it.
Nice.
Now, Vadim and Hasad, any actions from either of you from here as Gus is focusing his attention on Vadim?
Yeah. Well, actually, quick question: am I like behind him at this point, or beside him, or in
You
front
are
of him
almost
when he's
exactly
looking
behind
at
him.
Okay, cool. Can I see any weak spots in his armor from this position? I'm really close to him, and I'm right
Really
behind him.
closely inspecting. And as you're going through, he is incredibly well fortified. He has made sure not a single damn crack is visible on the armor. Even the guts of the armor, even like the pneumatics or not pneumatics, but like the mechanisms that power it are all hidden under thick plates of pig iron. This thing is so tough. It is probably thicker than most shields that you've seen.
Okay. So, yeah, in that case, what I would like to do is I want to reach into I'll reach into my sleeve and I pull out from my sleeve a piece of paper.
Yep.
Which is one of my waypoints. They are reskinned as ofuda, which is a Japanese thing. Basically, they are little slips of rectangular paper with writing on them. They're like talismans.
Yep.
And as I do this, I drag it across a little tassel on my clothing, which has a magical effect of making paper fly and also adhere to things.
Yeah.
And I hold the paper up to my lips and I whisper the phrase that I want to impart into this waypoint. And that phrase is, "Look over here, you moron." And I like to do a bit of energy work onto this as well. Normally, these waypoints only make allies hear the phrase in their mind, but as I'm as I'm doing this, as I'm whispering this phrase, I want to picture Mark in my mind, because he was an enemy, and by using familiar face, I was able to not make him an ally, obviously, but I was able to interact with him in ways that I wouldn't normally be able to. And I want to sort of apply that feeling to the memo here. I'm not trying to get on the good side of Gus, obviously, but I want him to be able to hear this.
Are you
and
picturing Mark pre or post chew?
Definitely pre, yeah.
Right.
Around about the time when I was actually speaking to him, is how I would be imagining him.
Yeah.
And like specifically like before and after I used familiar face.
Yep.
And I also, as I'm picturing that conversation being a conversation was audible. So
Yeah.
I don't want this to be a mental message. I want him to actually hear it with his ears. And
Okay.
then I want to throw the little waypoint thing to stick to the back of his head, so that no matter what way he turns, he's going to hear somebody say, "Look over here, you moron," from directly behind him.
Now, this pairs very interestingly with what Sloan is doing. A very similar action, in fact. But before this, it's obviously taking a number of seconds for you to prepare this action, especially after checking his own
yeah,
waypoints.
absolutely.
Vadim, actions from you as Gus locks his attention onto you.
All right, so he locks attention on me. I'm gonna try something that I've wanted to try for a while.
Do it.
Now Vadim hasn't gotten to see a gun, and pointed at him in a while. What I'd like to do is I would like to point down the barrel of Gus's gun with my finger.
Yeah.
And I would like to cast Shield Wall. I would like to make it the width of the barrel.
Oh, the Bugs Bunny.
I would like to Bugs Bunny him, and you know what? I know it's a little meta, so but I'm gonna say it because I think it'll be funny. I'm gonna put my finger. I'm not putting my finger in the barrel. I'm just pointing, but I'm sort of creating the shield wall into the barrel with a, because I'm still There's explosions all around me. There's soot on my face. I'm probably singed. So I'm just gonna say, look over here, you idiot.
And as you do so,
All three of us trying to get him to look in a different direction.
the look over here hits him from 3 different frickin' directions at once. And Gus clicks the shotgun. There's nothing that happens for a moment. He says, "What the damn hell?" And Sloan's trick shot, the first one at least, gets him in the visor. And the second 2 follow immediately thereafter. For the first time, Gus reels. And as he does so, his shotgun going wildly flailing, the shotgun backfires.
I've been wanting to do that for so long.
Now, immediate things. First of all, Hasad, Gus's reeling means that you are in genuine risk of getting crushed by him if he falls on you.
Excellent. Well, not excellent that I'm about to get crushed to death, obviously. Excellent in that I'm assuming when he falls, the impact will hopefully jar the jaws of his suit enough to crush the wrench fully. But obviously my action is to dive out of the way and just hope that my luck stat is enough to A, stop me getting crushed, and B, result in the aforementioned outcome.
And as he falls, there's a snapping noise, and from your position safely in like a little pile of rags outside of a window, you can see that one half of the wrench goes tumbling down into the crabgrass, and there's a horrible grinding clatter. Now, Sloan, you saw your trick shots land true, and after his shotgun backfired, he fell over backwards just out of sight. I mean, you can see his legs, but you can't see the rest of him. Are you going to sprint in? What do you want to do?
I'm sprinting in. I've still got shots left, and they come up pretty regularly here on my pistol without me having to concentrate too much on it, as I recall.
Yeah.
Since I've got my bandolier. Yeah, I'm going to run in as quickly as I can. If there's any chink in his armor, I'm going to see what I can do to exploit that.
And Vadim, you can see Sloan come running in. The bullets that he trick shotted off actually bounced off not terribly far from you. So you were immediately aware of his presence as he goes rushing in towards where Gus is toppled. What do you want to do?
I really want him to look at me. So I'm going to activate Gearathinks.
Yep.
And but I'm going to start it with a I'm going to my parrot action is going to be yelling, is sort of pointing my face out, still sort of holding on to this like tractor thing.
Yeah.
Like pointing my face out towards what's the rest of these people, no matter where they're scattered to, and I'm just going to say, and as loudly as I can, just shout it out with me, and then activate Gearathinks to just keep chanting, "Look at me, you idiot!" As I start to climb. As just, "Look at me, you idiot! Look at me, you idiot!" I just want this poor guy's brain to not be in his head today.
And Gus starts trying to push himself back to his feet, and as he does so, and this is when Sloan rounds the corner to see him as well, so Gus's potbelly, which has that jaw pattern outlined on it, the lower half of the jaw falls open. And behind it, you can see that where there should be a torso, there is none. Like a magician's assistant being sawed in half. His belly is non-existent, and in its place, you see a screaming furnace, brilliant crimson red, that almost looks like it's alive.
Oh my.
And what does Sloan want to do as he rounds the corner to see this? Gus's face is still obscured by his mask and his broken visor, but isn't pointing towards Sloan.
Gotta be honest with you, I'm gonna come to a stop if I see that. That's not something you see every day.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna slow me down in my tracks just out of, oh crap, what the heck. My instinctive reaction would be to unload my pistol into that fiery belly that he's got there. No idea if it would do any good. It would be an instinctive reaction.
And as you shoot, The last 3 shots, like in your immediate clip, before I presume you want. I mean, you ran over. I think you mentioned your bandolier, so you would have reloaded. You could do the full 6 if you wanted to.
That's what I mean. It would.
Oh.
And with my skill set, with my skill pluses, I could probably do it pretty quick and get off 6 fairly.
Fan
fairly
that
easily.
hammer.
Absolutely.
Fan that hammer.
And as you do so, the fire holes appear on it. A tongue emerges from it, and you hear a hideous, blood-curdling scream. Gus has sit bolt upright at this point, with his fire belly screaming as he looks towards Vadim. Vadim can see his eyes vaguely through the visor, blood pouring from wounds on his head, but it's not blood. It's molten metal.
Molten.
Pouring out of his bullet wounds. And as he stares out of the visor towards you, let's check in with Hasad before Vadim pulls off this action. What does Hasad want to do?
What Hasad wants to do has substantially changed after you told me that his blood is molten metal. Because I do not want to damage my precious, precious scythe.
Hasad would not see that his blood is molten metal.
True.
Only
True,
Vadim
that is a
has
good
seen
point,
this.
actually. Okay, so actually, that could potentially change something. Do I see his belly? Do I see the furnace thing?
Yes, you do. You see the furnace
Oh,
thing
I
and
do.
the
Okay, okay.
strange creature-like fire inside of him.
Good, because if I didn't, my action would have been to swing my scythe into his gut. Because I don't want my scythe blade to melt, so I'm not going to do that. What I will do is, I will fall back to an earlier plan I had. I am going to take out my remaining 5 waypoints.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they're called, isn't it? Waypoints, yeah. Yep, cool. The Ofuda. And I wish to just hold them all up in front of my face, and once again, actually, as I'm drawing them, they like cross my chest and rub against the magical thingy that makes them adhesive. And then I like hold them like a fan, like almost like the illusionist folding fan, hold them in front of my face, and once again, this is a sort of energy work type thing. I guess what I'm going to say this time is repeat ad infinitum. And that's not exactly the message, because what I want to do then is throw them all, and they will stick onto the back of his head along with the first one. And basically, I want that message to just repeat constantly at a very loud volume.
Yeah, I understand what you're going for. And Vadim, unbeknownst to you, this is happening behind. Sloan has just shot into the screaming fire in his belly as he looks and makes eye contact with you through his broken visor. What do you want to do?
So I have a plus to spirit.
Yeah.
In that one look, I am staring him down looking for a weakness other than the giant hole in his gut. What is he feeling in like a split second, like one word?
His eyebrows are raised and his brow is knitted. His eyes are wide under that brow. I don't have a word for you, but...
That's enough. Hey, Rob, I have no idea if this is going to work. In medieval times, when a castle is being sieged, people often throw things from the ramparts.
Yep.
I would like to arms myself a giant open barrel of water.
What's your paired action?
My paired action is wiping a drop of sweat, seeing this sad, pathetic creature away, and just sort of, I'll cool you off, my friend. And I would like to pour that down, hoping that his gullet will not be receptive.
I'll take it. This would be happening just over Sloan's shoulder, but the water that pours in would, of course, be immediately apparent to him. There's a hiss and that awful screaming from the creature that Sloan shot in Gus's belly becomes a gurgle. And then a splutter. And a hiss. as the fire bleeding from Gus's bullet wounds goes out. And you all feel your Enclave badges ping on your chests.
I don't have one nearby. Shit. Damn it. Crap. Wait, do I? No, I don't.
Final actions.
Does he stop moving?
He stops
dead?
moving, still as a statue.
Ah.
Everyone! I think we may need to bury some of your former townsfolk. Does anyone have some milk?
A few folk are creeping out towards the scene of desolation. There are still fires burning, and the flamethrower fires that landed in the house, like behind the house, are still burning strong and taking down pine trees.
I'm going to actually make my way quickly toward the door that these guys came out. I still don't know what has happened to Hasad, so I need to go and check on him, make sure that he's not in a pile of blood there somewhere inside the building. I just want to check on him.
And as you rush on over, you actually see two things. Well, three things. First of all, the man who went in alongside Hasad is standing by the doorway, panting deeply and looking terrified, face bloodied, broken jaw, missing tooth. Behind him, this is your first time seeing Mark since before he was chewed. And Mark, though he had been moving after being chewed, is now still as a statue, his horrible flayed skin a shade of nickel gray.
Oh, wow. Oh, cool. Mm.
And the last thing you see is, after a moment of taking in this horror, Hasad, who is not indoors, he's actually just out of doors, right behind the smoldering remains of Gus.
Hasad, you all right? What's been going on here?
I'm perfectly well. Thank you for your assistance. I
Shit,
could
you're all
not
right.
have survived without your intervention, so it is much appreciated.
Well, you're gonna have to fill me in on what just took place there, but I guess we'll have time to talk about it.
Of course. I give you a nod, and I would then like to turn back to Mr. Ordwin and say to him, apologies about your jaw, but your town is now free of its tyrant.
As
You
he's
and
nodding,
your family can...
you hear screams of fire as many of the other people of the park start rushing out to deal with the fire burning in the trees behind Gus's compound.
Yeah, as I hear that, I change what I was about to say, and I calmly go ahead and finish my sentence by saying, you can take this. It might be somewhat helpful in extinguishing the flames. And then I want to reach into my satchel and pull out the largest fire extinguisher which could conceivably fit inside, which presumably is a very small one.
Oh, Mary Poppins bag.
Indeed.
Yes.
He takes it and says, "Thank you. I can't believe it's done," as he goes rushing out of the building.
Yes.
Uh,
And at that
could
point,
one of you
I will
whose
pin
legs
out.
are not shaking go? Oh, he's gone. Could one of Sloan? Great shooting. My knees are shaking a bit. Could you mind go find the old man? These people have weird names. Old Man P.
Oh, don't worry. I'm on it. I'll go see where I can find him. I'll head inside the building that everybody's been piling out of and start searching to see if I can find.
It really was a clown car.
It would take, yeah, exactly. It would take Sloan probably 5 or 10 minutes of hunting, but with no hostiles to thwart him, he eventually finds old Mr. Pabbage inside of an old, wood stove that hadn't been used for burning in a while, but only barely had room to fit the old man in. He's in a fetal position and looks exhausted, coughing from the smoke.
Come on, let's get you on out of here. I'll help him. I'll put an arm underneath
Yeah.
his armpits and have him lean on me. And I'll help him out.
You dealt with him then?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be troubling you too much no more.
Good. I'm glad we could count on you.
Well, glad to help out. Let's get you out in the fresh air. Come on.
Yeah. Are my girls okay?
As far as I know, they're all fine. They tried to help us out. They were real brave.
Good.
Outside, you can see everyone on the compound is dealing with the fire extinguishing. They've managed to get it down to just one tree and are felling other trees nearby and pushing them over with some of the bigger land-moving vehicles to make sure the fire can't spread as easily. And as you do so, any final actions before you ping out?
I've got to retrieve my Sharps rifle.
Absolutely. And on that note, we will end the mission.
Cool.
Woo!
Nice.
Beautiful.
That was great. That was great.
Now,
Oh, that went a very different way than I thought it would.
Indeed.
Oh boy.
I hear my boys' joyful little voices, but I want to make sure we do a debrief before we sign off. Let's do a brief once-over of the characters, and also I want to give you guys an opportunity to ask any questions you have about the plot, calls that were made, comments, that sort of thing. I'll get through the characters very, very quickly. First of all, Reece. Hasad's awesome. What an interesting character. He's like insidious but sweet, and I don't know how else I can describe his combination. I like the way that you used your waypoints was really cool, and I don't know if you guys noticed, but not only were you guys all screaming at him, "Look over here, you idiot," but he was like a prodigy coming from a very poor background. And so being called an idiot really got to him in a way that, like, I don't know if what was going on in the mission conveyed. Like, it was hitting him in a way that I didn't think you would hit him, especially from so many angles. Also, your confident walking into severe danger was very entertaining.
I was impressed. I gotta say.
You had some serious balls on
The
this character.
cojones.
Yeah, seriously. And
Yep.
lastly, your
I
wrench
literally
play-
just
Oh, yeah?
I was just gonna say I just gave him the will start so that I could just do stupid stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
exactly. And I actually think that there was a chance that you would have gotten chewed, and that will stat might have actually saved you. So, because
Well, to be honest, I wasn't expecting it would. I was thinking like there's no way like one will would be enough for
it wouldn't
that
be enough
level
by
of
itself,
trauma.
but maybe something else, like if you had just started it. And as you might imagine, the fire
Yeah.
inside of Gus could have been used for other things too. He could have healed that ally, for example. However,
Wasn't letting that happen.
indeed, you guys got to him. You guys got on top of him too fast. Lastly, the wrench play was genius, beautiful, loved it,
Thank you.
amazing.
Goaded.
Second, Vadim. Vadim is awesome. He is such a fun and believable character. You make great use of your rounded build. He's personable in a believable way. You tap into his backstory beautifully. The shield wall was hysterical, but I think
I've been wanting to do that for so long.
I think though that
It was great.
my favorite moment for Vadim was actually killing the guard at the gate. That was just the right play, and it wasn't obvious.
Yep.
That was just smart, very, very smart.
The moment he turned, I was like, oh yeah,
Also,
gotta happen.
special shout out to the team play between Vadim and Sloan. They were so nicely in tune with each other. That was great.
That was
Yeah.
fun. That was a lot of fun.
And
was
lastly,
phenomenal.
Sloan. Jim, you took the game beautifully. I don't think anyone watching would have expected this was your first time with Enclave.
Well, no, there were mistakes made, and there were actually play mistakes that I made that I wish I'd done. Setting up some signals ahead of time to make sure that we were better coordinated, but I still think it worked out pretty well. I got a lot of boning up to do on paired actions and things like that to get more into that side of the game.
Sure.
But this was a good time.
Brilliant first attempt. I thought you did excellently. Some of my favorite moments was one, you did an incredible job of not being noticed. Like they could have been so much more on guard if they had seen some asshole with a gun tramping around. And you did a fantastic job of preempting that without being too shifty or taking a million years to like take the safest route to a thing. So I thought your time management, your positioning were both amazing. Those henchmen were not easy enemies, but your positioning allowed you to trivialize two of them. And I thought that was just beautifully done. The trick shot action at the end was sick. Also, smart move, just again, it's not always obvious when you should shoot and when you shouldn't. A fire inside of someone's belly is not like an obvious thing to shoot. No, just fucking kill it. That was smart. Like
throw lead at it or whatever the metal might be. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I thought that your game sense in general was great, and that's something that often takes a long time to inculcate. So awesome. I like Sloan a lot. I thought his personality shone through as well, and he had really interesting dynamics. I think all of these characters had great dynamics with each other in like an understated collaborative way. They got along really well, and I thought that was really cool to see. Do you guys have any questions for me about the plot or calls I made, or any comments about each other's characters or the mission overall? Please fire away.
Can I just ask, first of all, where all of the, individual focus words worked into this? 'Cause
Yes,
I'd be really
you
interested
guys
in
gave me
hearing that.
tough focus words. So, Junkyard, Fairy, Facsimile, variety of things. I think the Junkyard part is obvious, but the main one I was going for is he was being to some degree possessed. And so that's where Fairy came in. It wasn't explicitly a fairy, but I wanted to have some sort of supernatural element. And the Facsimile was the fact that he could turn people into almost just robotic minions by the chewing process, right? And so that focus word, once I had an idea of that one, the rest fell into place. Cruciform, Carnation was both some of the color motifs that I was using, but also the fact that once, I don't know if this was obvious by the end, Gus was in unbelievable pain the entire time. This is an incredibly painful process, and he was being held against his will and effectively tortured by this spirit or thing that had gotten into his suit and into his system. You guys didn't explore that side quite as much, but when you said Cruciform Carnation, I thought red and I thought pain, and so that's where I went with. And lastly, Steel Emerald. Now, the steel ended up kind of contributing to the Junkyard thing, but this is kind of a weird one. When I heard Emerald, the first thing I thought was Chaos Emeralds from Sonic. And Chaos, in this case, being an element of the creature that was possessing him, right? So that helped kind of inform my world building. And also, Steel could also be written with an A. And I thought if you had found a way with your will stats to pull the thing out of Gus, you could have actually saved him.
I considered trying, but then combat happened.
Indeed, yeah. There's a bunch of ways this.
So I was like,
nah.
Nah.
So that was how I used your focus words. It's a hard set though. Nicely done with challenging me. Do you guys have other questions or comments about this one?
I just wanted to say how awesome Sloan is.
Yeah, sick.
Like you said, you made like gameplay mistakes. I'm sitting here going, where? You were everywhere you needed to be all the time.
Well, the thing that hit me as I was up in the tree, I wish that I would have worked out a signal word or a hand signal with you before I went there, so that if you decided, okay, it's time to start the chaos, you could have signaled me. As it was, I had to kind of wait to see your action, which would then propel me to doing something. And there could have been a split second in timing there that might have made a difference if I had planned it out a little bit ahead of time. And as a sniper type, that's really one of the things that I should have done.
Yeah.
But aside from that, I appreciate you guys having me along on this. I hope I didn't, kind of hold back the feel of Enclave with
Not
you
even
two.
close.
Not at all. No.
First time in, you're always kind of thinking, oh, geez, am I doing this right, or am I getting in other people's way? So thank you for having me along on this. This was a blast.
Yeah.
Totally.
That trick shot was probably the coolest trick shot I've ever seen.
That was a sick trick shot.
Just
That
like,
was awesome.
oh,
Triple trick shot was great.
I appreciate it.
I guess now is as good a time as ever. Jim, now that you've tried out the system, any other thoughts on it now that you've seen it in action?
No, Robbie. I really like the system. I feel bad that I wasn't better versed in it prior to playing. So, but no, I'm not saying that it's. I'm not trying to say that I feel like I was a failure. That's not my point. It's just that now I'm all excited about digging further in. Now that I have the lay of the land, I need to start putting down all the detail.
Totally.
So I would, if I ever get the chance, if you need another player, please let me know, because this is a good time.
You
This
bet
is a
I
lot
will.
of fun.
I thought that you took to it beautifully, and like I said, your game sense is exceptional. Yeah, there's ways to optimize. There's ways, like pieces of like the more specifics of the system you can learn more about, but your fundamentals are great. And
Well, I got to be honest with you. I've been doing this RPG thing since 1978, but I've been around the block once or twice with it, so it kind of drops in most games.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
thank you. But I appreciate the compliment all the same. That's really nice of you.
My pleasure. You guys have any other questions or thoughts on this particular mission?
It was great.
It was really well thought out.
was.
I think that in the time frame that we had, I think that it moved along at a great clip. There was enough to keep me guessing. There was enough to make me wonder. There was enough to make me question myself, which I love in an RPG.
Good.
You did a really good job setting this up for a 4-hour play session. It was excellent.
Thank you, Jim. Really appreciate it. Pacing is huge in Enclave
It's
missions.
even more impressive when you realize that he prepared the 4-hour play session in about 4 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you've been doing it for a while. I haven't been doing it as many years, but I have done a lot of sessions.
So
So
you can tell you know what you're about. You're doing really well at this.
very much appreciated.
And
And
I'm just glad I got to be a part of it.
of course, and you will be back. I am sure. I would love to have you back. Reece, do you have a thing? I thought I heard you say something.
No, I not really. Just oh yeah, actually, I was gonna say one thing. Jim, you had said like you kind of felt like maybe you had missed things. I just want to say like you're like a great player. I think probably the only reason you would be getting that impression is because we've got like Lee on this mission. Like the one of the high points of the mission to me was when Robbie when Lee was talking to Larry, that was his name, Big
Yeah,
Larry.
Larry.
And Larry was all like so impressed by this plan that he was concocting on the spot. Like I was absolutely there with Big Larry. I was in complete agreement. It's just like, yeah, definitely planning is not my strong suit. Hence why I just randomly talked to one of the bad guys and was just like, "Show me your evil plan."
Well, you know what? It paid off. And it worked just fine. Sometimes the simplest plans are the best ones.
Yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed the NPCs on this one. I had kind of a tense topic, so I wanted to add some levity somewhere. I thought it would be a good batch of people to bounce off of for all of you in different ways.
It was hype.
Sick.
Yeah.
All right, my friends. In that case, let's sign off. I hope you all have enjoyed watching. Thanks to everyone in chat. I'm sorry I can't read your messages without screwing up the recording, but I hope that the other players, if you guys have had a chance to look through, I'm sure they've had plenty to say in chat as well. And for all you watching on YouTube, I really appreciate you taking the time. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. Make sure to join us in the Discord if you haven't done so already for more Enclave action. And let's sign off in the order you guys signed on way back in the beginning. Reece, Lee, Jim. And if you want to plug anything, plug away.
Yep. Bye from me.
Yeah.
Nothing to plug.
Yeah, it was super fun to be on another mission. We got some cons coming up. You might see us at is it Rising Phoenix?
Yeah.
In was that next 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks? 3 weeks? 2 weeks? 3 weeks? And PAX Unplugged and way the heck out there.
Maybe.
Hopefully, if the RNG gods are willing.
Hell yeah. And
Nothing from me, guys. Just had a great time. Anybody who might have been watching, thanks for putting up with me as I worked my way through my first, but hopefully not last game of Enclave. It was a heck of a lot of fun. Credit to my two compatriots here and Robbie for running such a great game. I really appreciate it.
much appreciated, Jim.
Yeah.
And again, for anyone who hasn't already, share to check out Jim's channel, The Old Warlock. It's awesome, and I genuinely love his content. And as always, my name is Robbie Howell, and ciao for now.
Thanks, guys.